Part 18. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 175. The Time and Space Demon Ape, the power of time and space on his body lingers. Coupled with the supernatural powers of the Dao body of 100 battles, one stick to cut the sky. Roll up the Immersturm. Tai sensed that Lu Gui's space-time demon ape clone was coming, and hurriedly sacrificed the chaos bell to block it. But all this to no avail. The 100 battles Dao body is not only 100 battles Dao method, but also a great Dao divine power. Under its blessing, the divine power cut down the sky, and its power skyrocketed several times. Donghuang Tai was directly swept out of thousands of miles, vomiting blood and retreating. At this time, Dijun immediately made a decision, took the people of the demon clan, and quickly fled towards the heavenly court. At this time, heavenly court had already activated the Jotian Star Do Great Array, and the sky was full of stars. Heavenly court paid nearly 1/3 of its manpower in exchange for a long life. The Witch clan, the demon clan, the battle has completely begun. Dijun's sneak attack became the trigger for the Lich War's face-tearing fuse. The Wu clan attacked the Jotian Star Do Great Array, and in the case of the Witch Sword cooperating with Jotian Xingdu, they had no choice but to retreat. The whole flood was filled with the smell of gunsmoke. The saint doesn't end up, Tai and Lu return to their side, and they all stick to this bottom line. But it's not that the Eastern Emperor Tai is willing to keep. It's that there are too many saints on Lu Gui's side, and if he really fights, he will be besieged. Lu Gui, Hutu, and Mosquito Dao people, which is not too much of an enemy. What made Dijun and Tai depressed and vomit blood was that the Mosquito Dao people and Lu Gui were both considered demon clans. At this time, the Western fairy aura is swirling. 3 cleans and 2 saints, hand in hand. As soon as they came, they stood directly on Tai's side. This action was exchanged for Lu Gui's sneer. For example, the war between the court and the Wu clan today has largely turned into a war between heaven and earth. The Wu clan represents the earth, and the heavenly court represents the heavenly way. 3 Qings and 2 saints, even if they are dissatisfied with heavenly court. It is also necessary to stand on the side of the heavenly court with a clear banner. Heavenly Dao, the 6 great sages. On the tunnel side, the position of the Hutu is hidden. Lu Gui, a mosquito man, stands in the void. Not long after, on Mount Tai, Zhen Yuanzi laughed and stepped into the air. Yingzhou Island, the Queen Mother of the West smiled lightly, appearing on the top of Buzhu Mountain. Most of the saints of the flood wilderness gathered before the heavens and the earth. The battle is on the verge of breaking out. Lao Tzu had a calm face and looked at Lu Gui. 6-eared saint, you authentic saints, still want to be robbed? Lu Gui smiled. The so-called saint doesn't end, I want to see, you can't end. If you heavenly Dao saints decide to protect heavenly court, then why can't we? Lao Tzu said. The 6-eared saint is angry, this Dao ancestor is compassionate, and the heaven and earth killing machine saint does not like it. Poor Dao Hope, the Wu clan should retreat. When the mosquito man heard this, he laughed angrily. You people, you are really too pretending, I didn't see you when heavenly court attacked the demon clan. The Wu clan counterattacked heavenly court, and you came out to reconcile. Really, I'm an authentic saint and a fool. In one sentence, the Mosquito Dao man said that the heavenly Dao saint was red-faced. Heavenly court represents the heavenly Dao, and the Wu clan represents the authentic Dao. This is also the meaning behind the Lich measure. Although Hung Jun calculates the Lich, the Emperor is also counted as dying in the Lich. But after all, the flood is respected by the way of heaven. Emperor Jun died, and heavenly court survived. Eventually, the Witch clan vanished. One sentence from the Mosquito Taoist is equivalent to unraveling the veil of hypocrisy on the Hung Jun side, and it is no wonder that the 3 clear and 2 saints can't stand it. When the Wu clan heard this, they were instantly angry. Heaven is unfair, but fortunately, their Wu clan now has a backer, and they are not afraid. Lao Tzu was scolded by the mosquito man, squinting at the mosquito man, with murderous intent in his eyes. Lu Gui looked at it and smiled lightly. His heavenly Dao supernatural powers, suddenly launched, chaotic path. Lao Tzu's Dao heart was lost in an instant and suffered a small loss. Lu Gui made a move, and the saints burst out with a shocking momentum. Seeing that the battle was on the verge of breaking out. At this time, Honghuang descended the heavenly sound of the avenue. Fellow Taoists, you are angry. I, Honghuang, as the heavenly Dao ancestor, invite you to go to Xixiao Palace for a while. This battle will stop for the time being. On the side of the heavenly Dao saint, when he heard the edict of the Dao ancestor, he immediately stopped. Lu Gui came here, and glanced coldly in the direction of Honghuang's Xixiao Palace. Honghuang, are you the one who provoked the killing of heaven and earth? Now, why do you still pretend to be a good person for Lao Tzu? You dare to say, demon ancestor Rahuo, you didn't release it? Lu Gui's words caused an uproar. Honghuang, frightened and angry. How can these 6 ears know about this? 6 ears, don't spew blood. Honghuang's voice, coming down from the sky, already carried a hint of anger. At this point, he could no longer maintain a neutral attitude. Sanking, Ershen, and Tai, were stunned by Lu Gui's revelations. The 3 Qing and the 2 saints know about the calamity, but they don't know about Rahuo. And Tai simply didn't even know about the calamity. Everyone is not stupid. Honghuang's angry voice shows that this is very problematic. What, don't you dare to admit it? The Lich tribulation was originally a killing machine promoted by your Honghuang in order to satisfy his selfish desires and suppress the heavenly Dao and the underworld. The 2 Lich clans were originally victims of the calamity. Lao Tzu finally let the Wu clan get out of the robbery, and you calculated the Wu clan back. Do you really think I'm good-tempered? Lu Gui pointed to the sky and scolded. The color of the desolate world has changed. The great power of the wilderness, which has the ability to listen to these conversations, has been completely silenced. This kind of earth-shattering material. It's not something like them that a little shrimp can participate in at all. Those immortals, powerful, can't wait to pretend that they didn't hear it. However, they couldn't help but want to hear it. Back then, Pangu opened the sky and ran away from the people who raised their eyebrows, resulting in the incompleteness of the way of heaven. In order to complete itself, the heavenly Dao will promote the heaven and earth tribulation, triggering the heaven and earth killing machine. After you joined forces, you knew the 2 ways of heaven and earth, in order to suppress the desolate tunnel, and in order to complete the tribulation, you planned the Lich tribulation. The Wu clan is the son of the earth, and you calculated the Wu clan in order to restrain the tunnel. Then, in order to find an enemy for the Wu clan, you will promote Tai and Daijun to the position of Heavenly Emperor. Heavenly Court against the Wu clan, Heavenly Dao spokesperson against the Son of the Earth, Heaven and Earth fight, take the 2 major forces to sacrifice to the Dao. This is your Honghuang's calculation. Heavenly Court, Tai, was all dumbfounded when they heard Lu Gui's words. The major clans of the flood wilderness were also dumbfounded. If what the 6-eared saint said was true, then Dao ancestor was the biggest mastermind behind the entire flood wilderness. Honghuang is going to be ruined today? Tai and Daijun, asking for help, generally looked at the 3 Qings and the 2 saints. The 5 sages looked at the nose and the heart, and did not speak at all. This also confirms other people's speculations. I will awaken the tunnel, let the witch clan escape from the robbery, and enter the netherworld. Lao Tzu is enough to give you face, you still want to hit Lao Tzu with your idea. I disbanded the Dragon Court of the East China Sea and let the Dragon clan enter the netherworld. Why didn't you force it in your heart? Lu Gui pointed to the sky and scolded, making Hongzhen in Xixiao Palace tremble with anger. But he couldn't say anything. All the things that Lu Gui accused were done by him Hongzhen. However, why did this monkey choose to attack at this time? Did he really want to cause heaven and earth to kill? If the calamity is not successful, everyone will be involved in the killing and robbery by the way of heaven. Hongzhen wanted to say this, but he couldn't. 6 aired, this kid said that he was aggrieved like a child, special. Hongzhen didn't believe that this guy would really feel wronged. Later, when you saw that I didn't get oil and salt, you released the demon ancestor Rahu. He calculated behind his back, demonized 10 golden crows, and sent them to the flood wilderness for Hoyi to shoot to death. Demon ancestor Luo who killed the corpse of Hobi and let the Wu clan return to the wilderness. All this, you Hongzhen dare to swear to the heavenly Dao, you don't know. Bang! As soon as Lu Gui's words fell, the desolate sky exploded. Countless dark clouds shrouded the entire flood and wilderness, covering hundreds of millions of miles. In the dark clouds, the thunder shines. Lu Gui's words caught him off guard. He was furious, and he wanted to kill this monkey, no matter what the price, even if Hutu came out to stop it. But Lu Gui smiled sarcastically. You think you can? He is like heaven and earth, and incarnates the true body of a demon ape. Hongmeng sword refers to Hongzhen. Convergence realm. Dao ancestor realm. The power that erupted from Lu Gui's body had already surpassed the limits of ordinary saints. 3 Qing and 2 saints, Tai and others, their expressions changed greatly. They knew the monkey was strong, but never knew the monkey was so strong. Lu Gui is really at the Dao ancestor level. Hongzhen was in Xixiao Palace, and he was also so angry that he was smoking, and his heart was beating at the same time. In the long river of time, he has not yet fully realized that he has not yet fully realized it. Now that Lu Guijin made a move, he found that the monkey he looked down on was no less than him. Thinking of this, Hongzhen's eyes turned black and he almost fell to the ground. He finally recovered, gritted his teeth. What did this monkey want to do? Obviously it is already the realm of Dao ancestors. What does he want to do if he chooses to make trouble today? Wanting this, Hongzhen was furious. The power of the heavenly Dao gradually pressed down. If you don't do it, you don't stop doing it. This time Hongzhen really wants to completely wipe it out. Even if Hutu blocks it, he has to do it. Above the desolation, the heavenly way robbed the clouds and transformed into various different phases. Immediately, Hongzhen's voice came. Slander this seat, deserve to be punished. He finally decided not to admit it, and he couldn't admit it. As soon as he recognized it, his status as the ancestor of the heavenly Dao collapsed. Although heaven is unkind, everyone understands that all things are dogs. But it doesn't mean that others want to be a dog in Hongzhen's eyes. In addition to wanting to gather merits, Hongzhen's preaching of Honghuang also has the intention of establishing the orthodox status of Suanmen. Until then, this position had been as solid as a mountain. Even if the tunnel is born, and the ancestor of the earth is born, Suanmen is still orthodox. All of this stems from his Hongzhen. If it is said that the Taoist ancestor calculates the subordinates, the patriarch calculates the descendants. It's absolutely not okay to say this kind of thing. Hongzhen calculates these, but in fact, he has his own secrets. This time, it was Hongzhen who really shot with all his might. Lu Gui felt the power rolling in the clouds, and his expression changed slightly. Hongzhen hasn't fully shot yet. He already felt the fission of the desolate world. The real power of this Hongzhen is really terrifying. Even if the flood desolation tunnel is solid and desolate, this blow has a vague feeling of splitting the desolate. Lu Gui felt Hongzhen's killing intent in an instant, and he really had the ability to kill himself. He grinned. The demon ape of war, fight the sky with himself. Lu Gui instantly vaporized the 3 clears, good and evil followed, and the heavenly deists and reincarnation deists in the body connected their own power. The power that he burst out in an instant had surpassed his own realm. He slashed his sword and went out. Bang! Honghuang was beaten by him and Hongzhen to the point that a black hole appeared in the void. A black hole devours everything. The flood and famine were reborn. At this time, Hutu finally couldn't help it and began to shoot. The power of the earth neutralizes that black hole. Dao ancestor, are you trying to trigger a war between heaven and earth? I'll accompany you. Authentic Dao ancestor Hutu, seeing Hongzhen take action against Lu Gui, he also began to shoot. She found Hongzhen's true body from the clouds. Sanking, Ershen, Zhen Yuanzi and other saints. Seeing that the situation suddenly evolved to this point. The expression was very ugly. It was originally about the action of the catastrophe of heaven and earth. It turned into a dispute between the three great Dao ancestors. Today's work is busy, so it's the third watch, and tomorrow the fourth watch will be resumed. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 176. The saints of the flood famine, seeing Lu Gui, Hongzhen, and Hutu fighting, looked confused. Even if it was them, they didn't dare to bear the results of the battle between the three great Dao ancestors. The desolate land has begun to crack just because Hongzhen and Lu Gui are on the right hand. After Hutu decided to make a move, the earth roared. Countless heavenly pillars equivalent to Buzhu Mountain rose from the earth. Each of the heavenly pillars summoned by Hutu has a power no less than that of the innate treasure. This is the realm of the Dao ancestors, the saints of the Dao. With the help of the power of heaven and earth, the power that directly erupted in the flood wilderness was much stronger than that of the mixed Yuan saint, and the Hedao saint. Hongzhen was in the dark clouds, angry. Hutu, you. Hongzhen, you count me as my brother, and let me focus on the overall situation. What did you say last time you were on Yingzhou Island? As a Dao ancestor, do you want face? Hutu said a word, and Hongzhen didn't know how to answer for a while. Hongzhen shouted angrily, blood spews people. He summoned a rolling cloud of calamity, and it was mighty. Rumble. These thunderstorms fell with the innate divine thunder. The explosion caused the law of the flood to panic, and the heavens and the earth collapsed. This desolation began to devastate the lives of the people. Compared with the Lich tribulation, the number of calamities caused by the three of them is still above the tribulation. Hongzhen, Hutu, soon realized that something was wrong. Their action has already caused a stress reaction from the heavenly Dao and the earthly Dao. Heaven and earth, setting up the holy throne of the Dao ancestor is not to destroy the flood. Hutu and Hongzhen suddenly sensed the will of heaven and earth descending. The two Dao ancestors were all restricted. At this time, Lu Gui smiled. The Hongmeng sword in his hand turned into a colorful giant sword. Hongmeng Holy Sword. The prototype of Lu Gui Hongmeng Sword Hongmeng Holy Sword. This giant sword carries a trace of purple qi, chaotic to the extreme, and transforms Hongmeng. Hongzhen had a hint of foreboding. Lu Gui's Hongmeng Holy Sword locked on him. Then, a force that made Hongzhen fearful emerged from the Hongmeng Holy Sword. Pangu supernatural powers, 3 types of opening the sky, cutting chaos. As soon as Lu Gui made a move, it was a fatal blow. After Hongzhen was locked, he couldn't escape if he wanted to. Hongmeng Holy Sword, turned into a ray of brilliance, and slashed at Hongzhen's body. Hongzhen's body was cut off in an instant. Split in half. At that moment, the blood rain filled the sky, and the heavens and the earth screamed. Everyone was dumbfounded. Hongzhen was killed. The saint falls, and the heavens and the earth mourn together. Hongzhen has fallen, even more so. Hongzhen represents the way of heaven, and his fall shocked the anger of the way of heaven. In an instant, the desolate land was directly shrouded by the thunder of heaven and earth, and erupted. The moment Lu Gui killed Hung Jun, the backlash of the heavenly Dao also made him ooze a trace of blood. Dao ancestor is dead? The end of a generation of the flood famine? Feel the rain of blood falling from the sky and the howling of the wind. How can everyone still care about heaven and earth? Daozu died, and was directly killed by the six-eared couple? This news shocked everyone's hearts, and the three Qing and the two saints and others almost lost their hearts. 6 ears, back soil. If you want to cause a war between heaven and earth, don't blame this. Just when everyone was feeling, outside the sky, Hung Jun's voice fell, accompanied by his voice, and there were endless thunderstorms. Dao ancestor has come back to life. By the way, the saint is immortal, let alone the heavenly Dao. Lao Tzu and the others, after discovering that Hung Jun was resurrected immediately, the feeling of loss became joyful again. At this time, Hung Jun's true body is outside the sky. He pointed to the void with his hand. In an instant, the heavens and the earth collapsed. The saints and immortals who had just been happy for a short time realized that the resurrection of the Dao ancestor was not a good thing. If the three of them continue to fight like this, they will really fall into a flood. However, Lu Gui and Hutu didn't seem to care at all. Hutu struck first and attacked towards Hung Jun. Hung Jun was depressed and wanted to vomit blood. He and Hutu are both Honghuang Dao ancestors, not ordinary saints. If you fight with others, then forget it. He and Hutu represent the heavenly Dao and the earth Dao respectively, and if they practice together, it is almost equivalent to the battle between heaven and earth. This kind of intense war will trigger the reactions of the heavenly Dao and the earth. Heaven and earth have no personality, but they will instinctively protect themselves. If Hung Jun and Hutu fight and defeat the flood wilderness, what will they do? Therefore, when Hung Jun and Hutu face each other, the backlash of heaven and earth has reappeared. Hutu and Hung Jun were both pulled by the second path and almost collapsed. However, Hutu is not alone. Lu Gui is still behind the soil, waiting for the output. Chaos. Pangu's first form of opening the sky was once again slashed out of Lu Gihongmen's sword glove. Hung Jun was killed by Lu Gui again. The saints of the flood wilderness were worried about the battle of the three ancestors just now, and they suddenly found that Dao ancestor is dead again? The beings of the flood have not had time to grieve twice. They found that Daozu was alive again. Hung Jun, standing in the void outside the sky, was angry and corrupt. Lu Gui killed him twice, and if he didn't understand the couple's cattiness, he would be stupid. This dead monkey uses his wife as a shield and uses the rules of heaven and earth to control himself? And then kill yourself? Hung Jun is the ancestor of the heavenly Dao, he can't be killed. But that doesn't mean it doesn't matter if he's dead. Every time Lu Gui kills him, he has to pay the price. He hated to rush over and tear the dead monkey apart. But when Hutu appeared in front of Hung Jun again, Hung Jun was angry. This couple doesn't talk about martial arts at all. The authentic identity of Hutu is placed here, and the battle between Hung Jun and Hutu will be restricted. Heaven and earth pull the frame, Hung Jun Hutu insists on going his own way, in addition to being counterattacked, there will be a consequence. That is Hutu or him, who will be pulled down from the position of Dao ancestor by the heavenly Dao. This is absolutely unacceptable for a saint. But Hutu, this crazy woman, looked indifferent. Made Hung Jun angry. Lu Gui stood behind Hutu and smiled. Hung Jun's current appearance makes him very cool. This guy has an enmity with himself in his past life and present life, and it is rare to see him deflated, but Lu Gui doesn't mind watching more. From the battle with Hung Jun, Lu Gui knew at least one thing. Is the current Hung Jun, he and Hutu are not opponents. Don't look at Lu Gui and Hutu, they have always had the upper hand in the battle with Hung Jun, and even killed him twice. But Lu Gui knew that if there was no Hutu card bug, Even if the flood was shattered, Hongzhen would be able to kill at least one of him and Hutu in the end. Lu Gui can't afford this kind of consequence. It's a pity that after discovering the heavenly Dao and the authentic persuasion, the genius Lu Gui instantly discovered the bug of the Dao ancestor war. He is a mixed Yuandaluo Jin immortal, although he is in the flood wilderness, he can't get the blessings of heaven or earth. But he will not be limited by the heavenly Dao and the authentic Dao. The persuasion of heaven and earth will give him the opportunity to kill Hongzhen. Later, Hutu didn't even have to fight with Hongzhen, as long as she behaved hard enough. Can use the law of the two realms of heaven and earth to restrict Hongzhen. Hongzhen, who is fixed, Lu Gui can kill him. Hongzhen was killed helplessly by Lu Gui's bug method. Lu'er, you think I can't kill you? Hongzhen was outside the sky, with a lot less scruples, and directly burst out with all his strength. Hongzhen himself is the 12 heavens of the heavenly Dao, and with the power of the heavenly Dao, he has surpassed the 12 heavens in an instant. The surrounding laws were distorted and absorbed by Hongzhen, and instantly turned into a huge law seal. When this seal falls, Hutu and Lu Gui will definitely not be able to get any benefits. Lu Gui he, go to MT Hutu. Hongzhen saw that Hutu rushed up and exploded. Do you want to be shameless for this couple? Hongzhen, I'm sure you can kill me. But so what, you dare to fight with my wife. If the two of you make a big fuss, it's a battle between heaven and earth. Will heavenly Dao let you go? He will take you from the position of Dao ancestor. My wife is so-called, the authentic Dao ancestor does not sit with her, and the others are also their own people. You Hongzhen came down from the position of Dao ancestor, do you dare to trust your apprentices? Lu Gui's words directly made Hongzhen like a basin of cold water poured down, and he instantly calmed down. This Lu Gui is right, he just fought the risk of being taken down by the heavenly Dao to destroy Hutu and Lu Gui. The authentic saints of the wilderness, except for the Bax oil. The reincarnation Taoist, Zhen Yuanzi, the mosquito Taoist, and the Queen Mother of the West are all relatives and friends of Lu Gui. No matter who sits on the authentic saint, it's the same. But if he Hongzhen comes down from the position of heavenly Dao ancestor, how dare he trust his apprentices? Not to mention the outsider Donghuang Tai, he must be eager to ask himself now. Not to mention Nuwa, after she came down from the position of heavenly Dao ancestor, will Nuwa, who is detached from morality, help herself or help her husband Lu Gui? As for the other saints, 3 clear and 2 saints. Which disciple of Hongzhen was relieved of him? Hongzhen, you calculate your friends and disciples, but in the end, you don't even have anyone to believe. What, you still want to fight? Hongzhen finally calmed down and trembled. He took a deep breath. 6 ears, what do you want to do? Lu Gui smiled. What to do? Lao Tzu asks for justice. I think I've never taken the initiative to offend you, but you are calculating Lao Tzu everywhere. I don't want much today, that is, from today onwards, the lich will be tribulated, and the people around Lao Tzu, you can't plot. If I find out that you are scheming on me again, you do it at your own peril. You. The 6-eared red fruit threatened himself, and Hongzhen was furious. But seeing the sarcastic gaze of the 6 ears, Daozu Hongzhen's anger that was about to explode was poured down by a basin of cold water. He took a deep breath. Good. After speaking, Hongzhen disappeared in place. Xianggong, that's good. The simplicity of Lu Gui's requirements surprised Hutu. The 6-eared macaque smiled. If you can't get more, we don't want to fight with him after all. As long as Hongzhen doesn't provoke us, time is on our side. When the time comes, I will develop the power to make Hongzhen desperate. Hutu still doesn't believe it. With Dao ancestor's person, he won't give up. Lu Gai Dao. Of course, Hongzhen is a villain, he will be revenged, I have sent him today, he will definitely return if he has the chance. but he doesn't have a chance. Let's go back first. Lu Gui took Hutu's hand and disappeared out of the sky. Really no chance? Hung Jun was in Xixiao Palace, smashing everything that should be smashed. And at this time, outside the flood wilderness, the airspace. Void Ancestor, it took thousands of years to finally spit out the last breath of resentment on his body. Although the grade of this elixir is not good, it is extremely powerful. Ordinary saints, even half of the great Dao saints, will be harmed by this elixir. It's okay, this seed is not an ordinary person. Void Ancestor, turning his gaze in one direction. Whether it's profit, or revenge, I must find that monkey. He said that in the direction he was looking, a Taoist was practicing with his eyes closed. This person is the person who raised his eyebrows. This person, available. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 178. Lu Gui brought Xianming to the abbot's secret realm, and felt the aggressive gaze of his eldest sister-in-law, and couldn't help but grow his head. This Xianming is also one of the earliest girls he knew in his early years. However, the marriage between the two is still worse than 11 and Chang 11 and others. Monkey, what are you going to teach me? After Xianming and the others sat down, he asked. Although I have a primordial god and can already practice the Dao law, it is the Wu clan that I really know. Teach people, I won't. What's more, the Jizo you said is still a requiem body, I'm nothing. Speaking of fighting, the Xianming girl can also be said to be very good, but if it is to educate sentient beings, the Wu clan does not have this kind of gene in her life. When Sister Xianming heard that she was going to be asked to educate sentient beings, she couldn't help but feel worried. But Lu Gui smiled. If he is there, even if the sister doesn't have it, he can let her have it. Among the 12 ancestral witches, except for Xianming and Hutu, no one else is suitable to become a saint. The other ancestral witches were too deeply affected by the turbidity of the earth, and the uncontrollable elements in their personalities were too heavy, and Lu Gui had to waste a lot of energy to adjust them. On the other hand, Xianming and Hotu, the two of them are the last-born ancestors, and at this time, the turbidity of the earth has long sunk into the 9 shadows. Therefore, the two of them are the most spiritual. Although Xianming is not as good as Hutu, it is also much stronger than other Wu clans. If the Lich of the Second World fought a decisive battle, and the other ancestral witches were all killed in battle, she took Zhifeng all the way to heaven and blew herself up to kill Tai. After Xianming helped the earth to incarnate and reincarnate, he received an authentic gift. Her primordial spirit is in line with the Netherworld Avenue. Although this avenue is not as good as reincarnation, cause and effect, etc., it can allow sentient beings to rest in peace. This is also the reason why Lu Gui chose Xianming to cultivate. You don't have to be presumptuous, I'll teach you. This is the Book of the Dead, listen up. The Bardo Body Reincarnation Sutra, the Sutra of Past Lives, the Book of Life and Death, the Sutra of the Earth's Wishes. Tai Salvation and Salvation Tianzun Sutra, 10 Kings Confession, Blood Lake Sutra. Lu Gui breathed a sigh and told the future Buddhism and Taoism, all the transcendent scriptures, and Xianming was stupid. What exactly are these 6 ears in their heads? He actually said so many ways to requiem. Then forget about the Tai Salvation Tianzun Sutra, what the hell is the Jizo Sutra? However, Xianming listened and listened, and the Netherworld Avenue in her soul began to awaken. Lu Gui gave her some Netherworld origin, Suanming's comprehension of the Netherworld Dao, directly to the Dachan of the law. Everything is ready, only the east wind is owed. Jizo, he. Lu Gui cut out the reincarnation Taoist clone and stayed behind to protect Xianming. he left the abbot's secret realm. At this point, outside Xixiao Palace, the 5 great saints gathered. And the faces of the people were not very good. Now Lu Gui broke the news that Zhu Hongjun was calculating, which caused the prestige of the entire Suanmen to drop to the extreme. Although the entire world of cultivators, 9 times out of 10 are under the Suanmen. Heaven is respected. But Daozo calculates his own people, and this kind of thing breaks out, and it doesn't sound good. Plainly. Led by the heavenly court. The immortals in the world don't like to be calculated by their own people. The saints could almost predict that the luck of the Suanmen would decrease at a rate visible to the naked eye. In order to join the Tao, Hongjun performed the law for all beings in the world, and founded the Suanmen lineage. Suanmen is the way of the world, and it respects the way of heaven alone. Later, Lao Tzu, Tongtian, Yuan Shi, and the 2 saints of the West, although they were divided into 4 major sects. There are 3,000 guests in Hongchen, and it is a great religion. But the luck of these great sects, because of the big framework of Suanmen, will still converge towards Suanmen. Hongjun is equivalent to firmly controlling the luck of the Honghuang cultivation. But now that they have been exposed by Lu Gui, it is unknown whether these great sects will still claim to be Suanmen Taoism. This is equivalent to an exposure of the monkey, including Hongjun's prestige and Suanmen's luck, all of which were completely beaten by Lu Gui. The thought of this monkey made the saints gnash their teeth in anger. Others can be separated from the Suanmen, but they saints can't. At this time, the door of Xixiao Palace slowly opened, and the 5 great saints were in high spirits. They hurriedly entered Xixiao Palace and saw that Hongjun was still sitting on the high platform. Mysterious, powerful, Dao ancestor Hongjun couldn't see any change on his face. But the saints always feel that Hongjun's figure has a somewhat withered atmosphere. In the battle outside the sky, I and Luer Hutu can't participate in the tribulation dispute. But there are no restrictions on your shots. Since the 6 ears are too deceitful, why don't you make the amount of robbery bigger? As soon as Hongjun opened his mouth, the saints were stunned. Lao Tzu said in a deep voice, "Master, this heavenly court no longer trusts us, how can we promote the tribulation?" Hearing this, Hongjun sneered. They don't have a choice. Can he still kneel and beg the witch clan for forgiveness? The revenge of killing the son, can Dijun let go? There are also the dead and wounded people of the Wu clan, and the ancestors are willing to laugh an enmity. The Wu clan has retreated once before, and this time it will not retreat again. This calamity has been stabilized. The saints listened to Hongjun's analysis and suddenly realized. Lao Tzu asked, "Then teacher, what else do you have to worry about?" Hongjun's eyes flashed with a trace of hideous evil spirit. "The demon clan can't bear the witch clan, but this time I won't end it, I want the witch clan to be destroyed. I won't let Hutu and Luer have a good time. It's okay to end the tribulation, but the Wu clan must perish." After Hongjun said this, the thunder outside Xixiao Palace was rolling. "I restrict Luer and Hutu from making moves. If I say that I am under the Suanmen sect, I can't deal with those authentic saints. Wait, it's better to get off the holy throne." When the saints heard this, they knew that the master was really angry. Tongtian Daoist thought for a moment and asked, "Teacher, that demon ancestor, is it really related to you?" As soon as he said this, the temperature in Xixiao Palace instantly froze. Hongjun was silent for a long time before replying yes. The hearts of the people are awe-inspiring. The Daoist sighed and said no more. "Wait until you go back, Lao Tzu will stay." Hongjun was disturbed by Tongtian, lost interest in talking, and let the other saints leave. He stayed from and said, "As the first apprentice of your master, I only trust you with all my heart. What do you think of the calamity now?" Lao Tzu pondered for a while when he heard this, and said, "Master, I think we should pull the demon ancestor Rahu into the water. If you want to kill the Wu clan, you need him." When Hung Jun heard this, he immediately became interested. At this time, outside Xiao Palace, the two holy paths of the west have gone towards the west. No wonder the 6 ears prompted the birth of the demon ancestor, our master. It's not simple. The quasi-Taidao man was gloomy and said to his senior brother. Lu Gui picked off Hung Jun's skin. Not only were the 3,000 guests of Hong Chen wary of him, but also his disciples, so they may not be wary of him. Demon ancestor Rahuo, Hung Jun has never told the saints. Hearing this, the Taoist had a gloomy face and smiled sarcastically. Since the master is not sincere to them, the two sages of the West naturally can't talk about their hearts for Hung Jun. Under normal circumstances, the Lich tribulation, the saint does not need to end up contaminated with cause and effect. Now Hung Jun means that he actually robbed himself? How can that not be a little good? Senior brother, Luer and Hutu can't make a move, it's also good for us. Dao ancestor level, we ordinary saints are not opponents at all. Without him, we can figure out something else. For example, the matter of Jizo. When the quasi-Daoist heard this, he suddenly realized. Senior brother, the ground is hidden in the netherworld, and there is great progress. Yes, a while ago, he got a hint from Diting and found a dojo in the netherworld, which is suitable for educating and requiem. There are 6 reincarnations in the tunnel, so that all beings can circulate in each way. Among them, the hungry ghosts are not reincarnated, but they are living in the netherworld. I set up a netherworld sect in vain, and I can educate these hungry ghosts. Coupled with his requiem being difficult to achieve the Pure Land, maybe it won't be long before he can become a saint from the tunnel. Receiving the words of the Taoist, the Zunti sage hesitated. That Hongmeng purple gas. Receiver, now the tunnel has not been fully awakened, and the Hongmeng purple chi has not been born. Then most of the other saints are using the merits of opening the heavens to preach, only the Queen Mother of the West doesn't know what the situation is. I preach to the netherworld in vain. I believe that the earth will also give a trace of purple chi. Receiving the words of the Taoist made the prospective Taoist feel slightly at ease. However, the next moment, the two were slapped in the face. Bang! Guiding the Daoist and the quasi-Taidao people, as well as the saints of the desolation. Suddenly, I sensed that in the darkness, the earth shook. At this moment, the king of Jizo in the netherworld suddenly stood up with a pale expression. I, a reincarnation Taoist, canonized ancestor Wu Xianming as the leader of the Hungry Ghost Dao. Jizo was just about to start from the Hungry Ghost Dao and calculate the saints, and the words of the reincarnation Daoist were like cold water being poured down. The king of Jizo and the two saints of the West were cold. They had a hunch that this was the calculation of the 6 ears against them. Soon, the two saints of the West got an accurate answer. In the underworld, Xianming was canonized by the reincarnation Taoist. Wake up from the retreat. Countless merits of the establishment of religion fell into Xianming. The hungry ghosts that the king of Jizo tried to educate, and they all saluted to the hungry ghost Taoist master. Today, I preach for all sentient beings, the Sutra of Death. Jizo Han Sutra. Blood Lake True Scripture. The voice of the earth appeared above the netherworld. Began to preach the method of requiem for hungry ghosts. The two saints of the West were stunned, and the Jizo Bodhisattva was dumbfounded. Why, she recited the Dafa that I had worked so hard to comprehend. No, it's more esoteric than I am, it can't be, it's impossible to. King Jizo almost went mad in hell. With the way of the requiem of the Xian netherworld, countless netherworld laws condensed around her. The netherworld law is one of the natal laws derived from the netherworld, although it is lower than the great laws of reincarnation, cause and effect, life and death, etc. But it is also the source of the netherworld religion. Jizo is fancy other authentic saints, no one can notice this corner. But now, Xianming is one step ahead. And he sadly found that even if he wanted to compete with the Xianming ancestor, which, he couldn't do it. The name is not right, and after Xianming was canonized as the leader of the Hungry Ghost Dao, his rank was orthodox. Originally, the tunnel had a trace of closeness to Jizo, and all of it turned to Xianming. He has a natural requiem body, and can be favored by the earth. The 12 ancestors of the family, or the son of the earth. Accompanied by the preaching of the requiem scriptures in Hutu, the mystery is exceeded. Her merits are getting more and more blazing. Finally, Xianming opened his eyes. I Xianming, today with the Hungry Ghost Dao as the foundation, for the soul of the dead, sanctification. After Xianming finished speaking, the ground swelled with golden lotus. The quiet earth is wrapped in lotus flowers. When the lotus blossom blooms, the heavens and the earth shook, and the darkness whispered. All the souls of the dead, feel the breath of the netherworld, rest in silence. Ancestral witch Xianming, preach and become holy. Above the desolation, the powers who also tried to sanctify with the help of the earth went crazy. The last saint of the tunnel was born. Represents the complete extinction of their hopes in the tunnel. The authentic saint has really become the self-reserved place of the Luer family. The guide and the quasi-guide feel all this in the air. The face of the person who received the guide also became hideous. These 6 ears really don't leave a way to live at all. Then don't blame poor Dao for tearing my face. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 180. Since Lu Gui broke the news, Heavenly Court has been like a dead dog, pressed to the ground and unable to move. Those immortals, big demons, heard that Dao ancestor was calculating the Heavenly Court, and left one after another. Even if the saint of the Eastern Emperor Tai is in charge, can't stop people's hearts from falling apart. It can be said that in addition to Daijun's diehards, Heavenly Court gives people the feeling that the general trend has gone. Those demon clans who didn't want to fight entered the East China Sea to live in seclusion again. Or simply go to the Snail Palace, choose a place next to the Snail Palace, and no longer participate in the general trend of the flood. At this time, the Kailan clan appeared and announced in a high-profile manner that they would join the Heavenly Court. The entire flood desolation was shocked. What is the Kiran? It was the former overlord of the flood desolation heaven and earth, and the Dao ancestor personally ordered him to withdraw from the great clan of the flood desolation atonement. Such a race, at its peak, was not inferior to the 2 Lich clans, and even surpassed. Now Hongzhun actually let the Kailan clan join the Heavenly Court in a high-profile manner. What does it mean? No matter what the other immortals think, Daijun has the benefit of Hongzhun. Seeing Hongzhun fulfill his promise again, he announced in a high-profile manner. The 6-eared saint spewed blood, insulted my Suanmen, and divided the relationship between Dao ancestor and Heavenly Court. My demon clan and Heavenly Court firmly believe in Suanmen Dao ancestor. The 6-eared saint is a mixed UN saint, not a flood, and wilderness and heaven and earth do not tolerate it. Dijun directly sent a battle message to Luer, and the flood shook. However, Yingzhou Island ignored the stupid barking, and there was silence. The quietness of Yingzhou Island made those Suanmen immortals suspicious. Whether it is Dao ancestor, Luer and Hutu, none of them came out to speak, and many people can't help but wonder, is Luer slandering Dao ancestor? After all, Hongzhun preaches the world and is too popular. And the contradiction between Luer and Hongzhun Dao is known to the world. It is not impossible for 6 ears to frame Dao ancestor. So under the deliberate guidance, although he was half convinced, the prestige of Suanmen was magically stabilized. At this time, in the Chaos Palace, Lu Gui sensed the changes in the world, and he laughed and laughed. This Hongzhun is really an old fox, and he even pulled and beat him, and pulled in Dijun and Tai, 2 fools, to wash the floor for him. But it doesn't matter. This lich is tribulating, and there will be results soon. Lu Gui no longer paid attention to the disturbances outside, and all his cronies on his side sat down. Dragons, Candle Dragon, Aoluan. Wu Clan, the 9 great ancestors of the Emperor River did not preach. Demon Clan, Yuanhong and other big demons. And even his intimate lovers, ambiguous objects, 11 and Chang 11 sisters, etc. Among them, the Wu clan, when they heard the news that the Kailan clan had joined the heavenly court, not only was they not afraid, but they were full of fighting spirit. Lu Gui nodded, this witch clan is really suitable for him to cultivate. Compared with the chaos of the demon clan, the mind is weird. There are a few more saints in the Wu clan, which is more beneficial to the flood famine. Of course, it's also good for him. He looked around, and the people around him were all confidants. Lu Gui sat leisurely in the center of the Chaos Palace and told them, I have come to you today to show you a path of preaching. The 12 ancestors, 11 and Chang 11, Candle Dragon and others were shocked when they heard this. This time, the saint summoned them to guide them in preaching. As a practitioner, who doesn't want to become a saint? But the road is difficult and dangerous, and not everyone can succeed in the Tao. Preaching the Tao with strength, beheading 3 corpses, and preaching the Tao with merit, these paths have been explored by others. After a few yuan, the others have long since lost the heart to preach through these paths. Prove the Tao with strength, unless it is a big heal. Beheading 3 corpses and merit preaching, heavenly saints and authentic saints, the positions are full, and the road ahead is extinct. So what other ways to preach? Brother Six aired, is it the method of killing the Tao? Dijong trembled and asked Luer. Lu Gui shook his head. Killing the Tao, it is indeed a method of preaching, and the demon ancestor Rehu has also succeeded. Now the killing and robbery are starting to preach with the killing, it is the time. But to prove by killing, you need a killing artifact, do you have it? When the others heard this, they looked at each other. They really don't. There are only 4 sets of Dao killing magic weapons needed to kill the Dao, the Zuxian sword array, the divine killing spear, the Abayuan 2 and the immortal flying knife. Among them, the Zuxian sword formation, the divine killer spear and the Abayuan 2 are all in the hands of the saints. The immortal flying knife is in the hands of Huangzhong Tongzi. In addition to these 4 killing superlative innate spirit treasures, there is no other killing spirit treasure in the wilderness. There is a killing spirit treasure the day after tomorrow, but in Lu Gui's opinion, it is useless. Even if they wanted to preach, they couldn't find anything. In fact, there are still a few killing spirit treasures in Lu Gui's hands, which are rewarded by the system, and they may be the best innate spirit treasures from other worlds. But he's not going to release it. The limitations of this method are too many, and it is an imperfect method of enlightenment that Rehu has studied. Unless you practice the law of killing. Otherwise, Lu Gui is not optimistic about this cultivation method. And in his hands, there is a better way. Now that the heavenly Dao of the flood and the heavens and the underground saint throne are full, it is impossible for you to be a Dao saint again. What I teach you is the method of mixing the elements of the Tao, whether you can preach or not, it depends on your ability and chance. When everyone heard this, their spirits were lifted. They all sat up straight and listened. The Dao method that I have passed down is from the heavens and all worlds, and it is called the 100 Battles Dao. With the will to fight, fight to break the law, grab a trace of the origin of the avenue, and integrate into your own body. Now the flood is famine, the world of great contention. It is time for you to fight for the position of a saint for the sake of preaching. After Lu Gui said this, the ancestors of the Wu clan stood up suddenly. They trembled and were excited. Lu Gui's method is clearly a method tailored for them. The Wu clan has been fighting all their lives. What could be more suitable for the Wu clan? Of course, the Wu clan can also preach the Tao with strength, but it is relatively too difficult to preach the Tao with strength. Even a few of their ancestors didn't dare to say that they could completely succeed. But the truth of war is the truth. And the others, although not as excited as Xiaowu, were also trembling. The saints are full, and the way of heaven is extinct. The mixed Yuan holy throne needs to be healed. Now the method of proving the Tao with war handed down by Lu Gui is a charcoal in the snow for them. Aoluan, Candle Dragon, Yuan Hong, who is stuck in Yasheng, but has no heels to preach the Tao. I almost fell to my knees. Lu Gui didn't care about everyone's reactions, and began to talk about the avenue slightly. As soon as he opened his mouth, it was not 100 battles, but a battle to win a duel. For a long time, it was Lu Gui and the core housekeeping method. Now he doesn't use it much, so he simply passes it on to his henchmen. Some of them have learned to fight and duel, and some of them have not. But Lu Gui's dictation made everyone tremble with excitement. This is a heaven-level supernatural power. Especially Yuan Hong, a demon clan divided by the chaos demon god, only heard that half of the battle was defeated and his cultivation skyrocketed. The 9 great ancestors also listened carefully. After obtaining the Yuan Shen, they can practice the Dao law, but they have always been based on the flesh of the Wu clan. They originally thought that there were not many primordial divine powers worthy of their cultivation in the flood wilderness. Until Lu Gui dictated this method, he only listened to the ancestors and witches sweating profusely. Lu Gui told the battle and won the duel, and said the true meaning of Vatian. Cutting the heavens, taking the battle intent of the chaos demon ape against Pangu back then. Lu Gui directly evolved the secret of opening the heavens back then, and the ancestors and witches saw the chaos demon ape fighting Pangu, and their expressions were complicated. However, the monstrous war spirit ignited everyone present. After a short time, the other people in the Chaos Palace all successfully comprehended the fighting victory duel and the heaven-destroying divine power. After that, Lu Gui began to tell the secret of 100 battles. The Dao of 100 battles comes from the Dao body of 100 battles, and this Dao divine power will naturally not be easily taught by Lu Gui. He is based on fighting and duel, and on the basis of cutting the sky. Teach the simplified version of the 100 battles Dao body to everyone present. After a speech, everyone listened to it with enthusiasm. This is really a method that can verify the way by war. The 9 great ancestral witches, the 3 great medicine kings, as well as 11 and Chang 11 and others, all stood up. They saluted respectfully. Proto copyright Ga copyright Dijiang, Gong Gong, Aoluan, Candle Dragon. Thank you, sir, for your teaching. In the future, Mr. Wei will be the first to look forward. Lu Gui passed down the method of preaching the Tao in 100 battles, which is a matter of merit for thousands of years. The moment when all the immortals thanked Lu Gui. The desolate heavenly way, the earthly way, and at the same time descend merits. The moment Lu returned to the world, he was overwhelmed by the merits of heaven and earth, and was bathed in the light of merit. At this time, the heavenly court, the flood saint, and all the great powers who were actively preparing for the war were stunned. They looked at Yingzhou Island in horror, wondering what big movement Lu had made. This merit is actually an edification merit. This is hardly inferior to Nuwa's merits in creating people, right? What kind of great education has been passed down by the 6 heirs, and it is like this. Those immortals who are not from Yingzhou Island have envy and jealousy, but the shock is the same. This merit, if it is placed on this seat, is enough for me to rise to the next level. The Eastern Emperor Tai, the 6 great saints, all inevitably had this kind of thought. However, these merits fell on Lu'er, but they were not enough for him to upgrade. From the 10th to the 12th heaven of the saints, the resources required are the amount of heaven. However, this merit still surprised Lu Gui. Different from preaching by killing, preaching the Tao in 100 battles is a method that no one has ever comprehended in the wilderness. I will transmit the 100 battles enlightenment into the flood wilderness, No wonder the heavens and the earth will bring great merits. This also shows that heaven and earth do not reject the mixed Yuandalogo immortal, but Honghuang rejects it. The affirmation of heaven and earth made Lu Gui more convinced that his approach was right. He looked at the sky from afar, as if he could find that Honghuang was in a hurry. Although these merits were not enough for Lu Gui to be promoted to the 11th heaven of the mixed Yuan, his strength had indeed increased a lot. But what is even more surprising is that the reward of the system is coming as scheduled. The host broke the news of the Taoist method, the power of education, the level of revelation, SS, the reaction level, Fengruo God. Overall rating, SSS. Reward the host for obtaining the innate treasure, Zhishanj. The host is rewarded by the law of the great Dao, creation. The host has obtained a fusion rebirth rune. The host has gained mana for 5 million years. Reward Pangu essence blood with a drop. The host obtains the best innate spirit treasures, 3 destruction origins, 3 creation origins, and 3 innate 5 elements origins. The host gets a reward for the authentic origin. The host obtains the best innate spirit treasure, the cone of destruction, the void god cup, and the of the heavenly cover. Mission progress, complete the Open Heaven 3 style quest completed. A series of rewards appeared in front of Lu Gui. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, detective with 6 ears. Chapter 183. The Avenue of Life and Death. This is what Lu Guixin realized, the avenue beyond the 3,000 avenues. Hutu, the Queen Mother of the West and Nuwa glanced at each other, and each could see the surprise and shock in their eyes. Did Xianggong really comprehend a supreme avenue again? Okay, I'll talk about it briefly. Lu Gui coughed. It was better to choose a day than to hit the sun. He looked at the fanatical longing in the eyes of Nuwa and Huangzhong Tongzi. Just start elaborating on the avenue. Nuwa and Huangzhong Tongzi are both cultivators who mainly practice the great Dao of creation. If they can sublimate in the great Dao of creation and cultivation and be promoted to the great Dao of life and destruction, their future is unlimited. Now the opportunity is in front of us. The freshly baked avenue of the great Dao of life and destruction. What is the better opportunity to learn and comprehend it quickly than directly looking for Lu Gui, the creator of the great Dao of life and destruction? Lu Gui didn't go to Sel Guanzi, sat down, and began to explain the mystery of the great Dao of life and death for Nuwa and others. All things return to the original, and the unity is the beginning. Lu Gui had already spoken, and everyone was shocked. He didn't say anything mysterious, but went straight to his heart. Nuwa and Huangzhong Tongzi, from the first sentence of his words, fell into the trembling of the unattainable Lord. Accompanied by Lu Gui's speech, the two directly entered the realm of epiphany. Then the two of them, the Queen Mother of the West, also became confused as Lu Gui matured the method of birth and death. The way of life and death also unites the way of life and death. Life and death are higher than life and death, and life and death are sublimated. Although life and death are one of the innate avenues, they are not included in the 10 laws. Because the reincarnation and cause and effect after the sublimation of life and death are the 10 laws. The way of birth and destruction is sublimated among the 2 great avenues of destruction and creation, and belongs to the supreme law. After the earth comprehends life and death, it confirms the reincarnation in oneself and the avenue of cause and effect. The Queen Mother of the West tried to comprehend the law of birth and death from the avenue of earth. All the girls and the boy in Huangzhong have benefited a lot. Especially the sage Nuwa. Since 3,000 years later, she has fallen into a state of epiphany and cannot extricate herself, and the great Dao of creation and transformation circulates around her, and she is almost transformed into the great Dao of birth and destruction. Lu Gui smiled and threw the source of destruction he left behind into Nuwa. The destruction of the origin ignited the cause and effect of Nuwa's enlightenment of birth and death. Nuwa's law of creation has evolved to the extreme, and a trace of life and death is directly born. At the same time, the desolate heavenly path made a rumbling sound. The flood and desolation also reacted. Lu Gui was stunned. How could Nuwa's sister comprehend the avenue of life and death? How could there be such a big movement? You must know that the great Dao comprehension is often the first person to get additional merits. As long as it is one step slower, there is nothing. However, Lu Gui saw the lotus flower on Nuwa's sister's body, and the merits of the heavenly Dao directly penetrating the abbot's secret realm. He suddenly realized something. As a flood-desolate heavenly Dao saint, Nuwa is different from herself. He himself is a mixed Yuandaluo-Jin immortal, and in the eyes of the flood-desolate heavenly Dao and the authentic Dao, he is an outsider. As a saint of the heavenly Dao, in the cognition of the authentic and the heavenly Dao, she is an insider in the system and her own person. Nuwa's comprehension of the great Dao of life and death is equivalent to completing a law in advance for the 3,000 great Dao of the flood and desolation in the heavens and 10,000 worlds. This merit can be described as monstrous. Lu Gui and Hutu and his party watched with a stunned attitude. Nuwa easily broke through the sage six-fold heaven and directly reached the sage seven-fold heaven realm. After the seven-fold heaven realm, the saint is equivalent to breaking through a big barrier. That's not all. Nuwa's realm continued to improve, and it wasn't until she reached the sage eight heavens that she really stopped her realm from ascending. But the rewards of the heavenly Dao are not over yet. At this time, a wisp of purple merit fell on Nuwa's eyebrows. Nuwa vaguely sensed the significance of this mark and stood up excitedly. And at this time, in the desolate world, when the merits of heaven and earth gather in one place, Honghuang and the other saints are already pale. What is going on? Sanking, Ershen, Tai, Zhen Yuanzi, Mosquito Daoran and other saints looked confused. At their level, they still can't feel that the flood famine has caused a series of changes because of the creation of the great Dao of life and death. But Honghuang is the way of heaven, and he is clearly aware, what is happening in this world. Nuwa comprehends the avenue of life and death. Honghuang was as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer, and he was directly stunned. That's too fast. However, after the great Dao of life and death was comprehended by Nuwa, it was a great thing for the heavens and the earth, and for the flood famine. Under normal circumstances, Honghuang is also happy to see it happen. But Nuwa, a disciple, because of lure, has actually been separated from him for so many years. Is not a henchman. With Hongzhen's cautious temperament, he is naturally jealous. Waiting for the heavenly Dao to be the earth, he used merit to push Nuwa to the realm of the heavenly Dao sage eight heavens, and the heavenly Dao crossed a reward for him, the Dao ancestor. But Hongzhen was like being struck by lightning. Dao ancestor candidate. Hongzhen received this information from the heavenly Dao will, and almost fell off the high platform. Dao ancestor. Wait. Compliment. Hongzhen gritted his teeth, word by word, and read these four words. Outside Xiao Palace, thunder was rolling. He's not dead yet. What does it mean that heavenly Dao has made a Dao ancestor candidate? Hongzhen instantly felt a strong sense of crisis. Was he spurned by the heavenly Dao? After the heavenly Dao canonized Nuwa's authority, the other saints of the flood wilderness also sensed it. Shaoyang Mountain, Lao Tzu, the head of the three Qings, spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at the direction of Yingzhou Island in shock. Senior sister, become a candidate for Dao ancestor? Why? Lao Tzu has always regarded himself as the first disciple of Suanmen and the heir of the heavenly Dao. A euro. Now run out of a heavenly way candidate? What is this thing? Heavenly Dao candidate, heavenly Dao specially gave this mark. I'm afraid there is still a lot of authority. At this time, Yingzhou Island. Nuwa also thoroughly figured out the power of the seal of the heavenly Dao. Heavenly Dao Prince. Xianggong, this is. After Nuwa comprehended the method of birth and death, in addition to creation, there was also a trace of destruction. A look of excitement flashed in her eyes, and she hurriedly told Lu Gui about her changes. Heavenly Dao alternate, Heavenly Dao Prince. These are all rewards from heaven for Nuwa's meritorious deeds. She proved one more for the flood and made up for it, and this kind of merit cannot be described. Back then, Honghuang killed Rahu and completed the demon Dao for the heavenly Dao, and only then did he have the opportunity to Dao ancestor for a few days. Now that Nuwa has completed the great Dao of life and destruction, it is not surprising that the heavenly Dao has descended to the position of Dao ancestor. However, Dao ancestor is already sitting, and Tiandao simply gives Nuwa a candidate for the position of Dao ancestor. Lu Gui could imagine the panicked expression of Honghuang in Xixiao Palace. Dao ancestor, but Hongjuan's lifeblood, if Dao ancestor is gone, he is nothing. Hongjuan is among the 3,000 demon gods of chaos, but he is an immortal demon god. The 3,000 demon gods belong to the middle and lower, if he hadn't been chosen by the heavenly Dao to become an agent. There will be no Hongjuan ancestor today. It is conceivable that Hongjuan will panic after knowing that Nuwa has become a candidate of the heavenly Dao. Xianggong, in this position of heavenly Dao Prince, my authority is already greater than anyone under the teacher. He can't hurt me easily. Moreover, I can use the power of the heavenly Dao like him. Nuwa told Lu Gui about the ability of the heavenly Dao candidate. Lu Gui laughed. Now that Nuwa has become the prince of heavenly Dao, the last trace of worry in his heart has also been lifted. Lu Gui has always been worried that as a heavenly Dao saint, Hongjuan still has some invisible means to deal with Nuwa, and now Nuwa has become a prince, and her merits are monstrous. Although Hongjuan is a Dao ancestor, he can't make a move easily. Unless, he really wants to come down from the heavenly Dao position. Nuwa's candidacy for heaven is an unexpected joy. Lu Gui's decision to end the awakening of the Lich tribulation has become even more urgent. He ended the way of evolution and death, and left with several wives. Leave the boy in Honghuang alone and enlighten alone. Coming out of the abbot's secret realm, Lu Guishen thought around the entire Yingzhou island. He was satisfied, and during his years of retreat, no one else on Yingzhou island was left behind. The 9 great ancestral witches, the 3 great demon clans, and others are all practicing the great Dao of fighting and defeating duels. Pervasive on Yingzhou island. I'm using the law of war less and less. But the law of war, the truth of 100 battles will be passed on. Forget about me and the chaos demon ape. He nodded in satisfaction and coughed. The ancestors and demons woke up one after another. Wait, it's time to end the Lich tribulation. Lu Gui summoned the ancestral witches and the big demons over and got straight to the point. The 9 great ancestral witches and the 3 great demon kings were all warzen when they heard the words. Since the Lich's calamity is inevitable, new hatred and old hatred. The Wu clan and the heavenly court will have to make a break sooner or later. It's not the Wu clan and the demon clan, it's the Wu clan and the heavenly court. Aoluan, Candle Dragon, and others have already determined that they will directly separate a part of the demon clan and completely deny the identity of the Emperor Jun Demon Emperor. For a time, Yingzhou Island was murderous. Heavenly Court has the help of the Kailan clan. How strong is it? Lu Gui casually asked Aoluan. As the former empress of the Dragon Court of the East China Sea, Aoluan has always paid attention to the affairs of the Heavenly Court. She said, the Kailan clan really deserves to be the overlord of the flood desolation in the previous generation, and there are 4 sub-saints in their clan, including the first Kailan. And in addition to the sub-saints, there are 3 quasi-saints at the peak, 7 in the late stage of the quasi-saints, and 13 in the late stage of the quasi-saints, a total of 23 quasi-saints. Like today's court, the momentum is like a rainbow. The saint will not end, but the Wu clan may not be able to take the current heavenly court. 23 quasi-saints, 4 sub-saints. This kind of strength is enough to make any force in the flood wilderness tremble. When the demon clan's heavenly court was at its peak, there were only a dozen quasi-saints and 2 sub-saints. Although the Wu clan currently has 12 sub-saints, they also do not have any quasi-saints. In terms of power, the Kailan clan is almost comparable to the Wu clan, and even has a small victory above the middle level. Can you imagine how strong were the 3 clans at the beginning? If it weren't for the fact that the Dragon clan was the worst hit by the demon ancestor Rahua, with heavy casualties, I am afraid that the power preserved by the Dragon clan would have remained too great. Now there is only 1 candle dragon left to support the field. However, the strength of the Kailan clan is not enough to make the Wu clan desperate, and I think Hongjun also hopes to deliberately create this situation. The strength is equal, or occupies a little advantage, this is about the same. Hongjun wishes that both the Witch clan and the Demon clan would fight to the death. The heavier the murderous aura, the more Hongjun's task will be completed. Otherwise, Hongjun simply pulled the Phoenix clan who guarded the immortal volcano into custody. Lu Gui thought of this and smiled. Fighting, you can't end up fighting, it doesn't mean that you can't arm the Witch clan. Hongjun thought that he had found the Kailan clan to sit in the town, and this calamity would change. It's not that easy. Wait and go, measure the robbery as a prison, and you as a trapped beast. Kill a Dao fruit. Lu Gui said a word, and the 9 great witch clans roared. For a time, the evil spirit shook the sky. At this time, outside Yingzhou Island, Hongjun appeared on the sea. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 206. Yingzhou Island, the Abbot's Secret Realm. In front of Lu Gui, he was kneeling with the Shenan clan. He carefully looked at his apprentice, who was supposed to be the emperor, but was destroyed by Lu Gui. Emperor Fuxi, Emperor Shenan, Emperor Xianyuan. The emperor used the calendar to know the heavens, guided the human race and preached, and became the first human emperor. The emperor of the earth, Shenan, tasted 100 herbs, and went to thunder for all human beings. And the record of the human emperor Xianyuan is the luck battle that relates to the human race to the position of the protagonist of the flood wilderness, and attacks the human emperor in battle. The 3 emperors have their own merits, but strictly speaking, Shenan and Xianyuan still have a relationship. Shenan's clan, later Emperor Yan. It is the second human emperor of the human race, but before the deer, the battle of unification within the human race. He was defeated by Xianyuan, and finally gathered the 2 major tribes of Yan and Huang, and finally joined forces to deal with the remnants of the Wu clan, the Chu tribe. However, because of the appearance of Lu Gui, the above situation did not happen again. Lu Gui unified the Terrans through Fuxi, and directly raised the strength of the Terrans to a very strong level. His Kongtong Daoist occupies a holy position. Xianyuan and Shenan, the 2 original human emperors, have also changed their fate, at least one of them has no holy throne. Fuxi's choice of Xianyuan is equivalent to Shenan's complete loss of the position of a humane saint. It was also because of this that he sent Shenan to himself to see if there was an opportunity for a mixed Yuan enlightenment. Lu Gui Shen Nian swept Shenan, and after he went to the source of life and death with him, how could he be mixed up with chaos? But if it is said that he will be able to preach the Tao and mix the Yuan, Lu Gui does not dare to guarantee it. Shenan knelt on the ground, feeling worried, not knowing what the master wanted him to do. Shenan, go back to your tribe. Lu Gui only said one sentence, and Shenan was shaken. Master, this is not to yourself? Master. Shenan was anxious, and quickly stood up. Lu Gui smiled. Your holy way, in the human race, is not here. His words made Shenan calm. What did this ancestor mean? Did he want to compete with Xianyuan for the position of the ancestor of humanity? Shenan didn't know these secrets of heaven and earth before. but before Fu 11 asked him to come to Yingzhou Island, he had clearly told Shenan. There is only one saint of humanity at most. If you want to become a saint, following the six-eared master ancestor is the best way. But the ancestor asked him to compete with Xian Yuan for the position of a human saint or even the emperor of the people. Lu Gui smiled. The road is under your feet, how you walk is your business. I only give you one suggestion: the human race has passed on the torch from generation to generation, and has come all the way from the flood wilderness, not relying on the sky, not relying on the earth, relying on the ancestors to fight for a glimmer of heaven. Terran, don't worship the sky. Terran, don't worship the ground. If you have to bow down, you will bow down to the sages of the human race. They are the ones who laid the foundation for the human race today. When Shenan heard this, it was like 5 thunderbolts. His expression was solemn, and he respectfully knelt down and bowed to Lu Gui. Master, I know. By the way, ancestor, what about senior brother Xian Yuan? Shenan was a little suspicious and asked Lu Gui. After all, he had a trace of doubts about Lu Gui's arrangement. Lu Gui smiled, let it be. The Shenan clan didn't dare to ask again, said goodbye to Lu Gui, turned around and walked out of Yingzhou Island, and went to the territory of the human race. He didn't look for Shenan, but found a tribe to come down secretly. Lu Gui sees everything in his eyes. Since Honghuang wanted to calculate humanity and pull Xian Yuan into the water, Lu Gui simply came to the bottom of the kettle to draw salary and directly replace Xian Yuan. I don't know what kind of expression Honghuang will have when the time comes. He smiled, his expression cold. The last saint of humanity is indeed to lead the human race to the big stage of the flood and famine, and to make merits and preach the Tao. But no one stipulates that the protagonist on this stage must be Xian Yuan. In the Yanhuang War, Emperor Yan Shenan was defeated, surrendered with the style of a gentleman, handed over the vital power of the human race to Xian Yuan, and helped Xian Yuan transition, so that he had the background to kill Chu later. But now that Xian Yuan has turned away from humanity, who says he must be the protagonist of the stage? The human emperor Yandi Shenan is the same. Haoshan, since you want to calculate, let you steal chickens and rice. How does it feel to go from a person who is obedient to heaven to an ant who resists the torrent of history? After Lu Gui arranged Shenan casually, he flew directly to the heavenly court. When he first ascended to the heavenly court, he sensed that there was a saint's breath in the heavenly court, or rather, the breath of a saint's clone. Tais Hanglajun, the doppelganger of the taking sage Lao Tzu. This old guy is here too. Lu Gui forgot to glance in the direction of the Tais Hanglajun palace. The sub-saint cultivated, infinitely close to the saint, and the saint was undoubtedly a doppelganger. He also knew why Tais Hanglajun appeared in the heavenly court. His doppelganger appeared here, to the greatest extent, to suppress the Yuan Shi. During the period when Yuan Shi controlled the heavenly court, Haoshan's life was worse than death. The Emperor of Heaven was suppressed, and he took the initiative to cut a doppelganger to guard the heavenly court, so that Yuan Shi could reign in. However, after this incident, the two brothers naturally have some contradictions. Lu Gui didn't feel anything when he saw this illusion in his previous life, but now he has other ideas. With Lao Tzu's gloomy temperament, how can he offend Yuan Shi for the sake of Haoshan? I'm afraid that if he does this, he will either have great benefits, or Honghuang will instigate him. He, calculating your own disciples, it's really a Suanman tradition. Lu Gui didn't alarm Lao Tzu, but looked in the direction of the harem. At this time, Haoshan God was glorious and slow, and talked excitedly to Yao Kai. I think it's because he let Xian Yuan sacrifice to the sky, and the flood has given him a lot of benefits. Of course, the biggest benefit is that after Xian Yuan Yellow Emperor defeated Kunpeng, he pushed his merits to the limit and became holy. Haoshan has a good calculation. He asked Xian Yuan to sacrifice to the sky, and the way of heaven oppresses humanity on the one hand. After Xian Yuan preached, He Haoshan was among the humanitarians, and he also had a saint's son-in-law. With a saint as a backer, his position as the Emperor of Heaven is not stable. No matter what he does, he won't suffer. That will naturally help Xian Yuan more wholeheartedly. In fact, in the original historical process, Xian Yuan did get the help of heavenly court, and these witch clans were far from being comparable to the human races that had not yet grown. The two most critical battles in the battle of luck of the human race are actually the Heavenly Maiden and Yinglong. The Celestial Maiden, the ancestor of zombies, and one of the four zombie kings. The world misunderstands her as the daughter of the Yellow Emperor, but in fact, it is not the Heavenly Maiden, but the meaning from heaven. She is the help brought from heaven by the nine heavens Suanu. No one knows where the female dragon came from, but the first time they appeared was in the heavenly court. Lu Gui listens to the world, but he knows the origin of some of the two daughters. When he stepped into the prison, in the depths of the prison, two women discovered the existence of Lu Gui. Yinglong, it is a real dragon mutation, and there is still the existence of the green dragon among the rising stars of the dragon clan, but he abides by the ancestral teachings and lives in seclusion. Tai killed the dragon clan, you are one of the prisoners. Tai killed many dragons in order to force the human race to submit. But he has always cherished you and didn't kill you, and he didn't see you when he came to heavenly court to lay out. Lu Gui smiled. Yinglong in the depths of the heavenly prison was terrifying. Who? The two great sages shouted, but Lu Gui ignored her. Heavenly Maiden, zombie ancestor, was born in the netherworld Blood Sea, but her heels are not Blood Sea creatures. You are actually the demon god of the corpse of the 3,000 demon gods of chaos, and after being killed by Pangu, the demon god was divided into 4 wisps of spirit, and they were transformed into 4 zombie ancestors. But you transformed very late. When Emperor Jun collected you to the heavenly court, he hated your essence and imprisoned you in the heavenly prison. Now, you think you're waiting for a chance to be free. Lu Gui exploded 2 materials in one go, shocking the female Lu and Yinglong in the depths of the dungeon. The host broke the news about the life experience of the second daughter, and the combined revelation level, A, reaction level, convinced. Comprehensive evaluation. He used his words to shock the second daughter, and after taking a little material by the way, Lu Gui walked to the end of the prison. Nulu and Yinglong, the 2 goddesses, appeared in front of Lu Gui's eyes. It's good looking, but it's stubborn. But in the end, I still give in. When Lu Gui said this, Heavenly Maiden Lu and Yinglong only felt that their scalps were numb. Standing in front of them, this one was like a towering mountain, unattainable. He is far away and near. I can't even see people clearly. The 2 gritted their teeth and asked. I don't know who the senior is. Yingzhou Island, 6-eared macaque, land return. 6-eared saint. Yinglong meets the saint. The maiden meets the saint. As soon as they heard that it was the 6-eared sage, Nulu and Yinglong knelt down directly, trembling. How can they be able to get the attention of Dao ancestors? Although Lu'er is not the 3 great Dao ancestors of the flood wilderness, he is also a recognized Dao ancestor level figure. Even if the female Lu Yinglong is in the prison, she knows Lu Gui's name. After all, the person that Honghuang Tai hates the most in his mouth is Lu Gui. You promised Haoshan to go to the world to participate in the battle of luck. Lu Gui asked, and Yinglong nodded. Tai, did you look for you? Yinglong hesitated, but also nodded. The concubine is unwilling. Huh. After listening to what Yinglong said, Lu Gui was non-committal. I won't talk nonsense, maiden. Do you want to restore the chaos heel? Yinglong, are you willing to return to the Dragon Clan and help the Dragon Clan prosper? Lu Gui directly clicked on the most desired thing in the hearts of the 2, and the second daughter thought for a moment and nodded. Then listen to me. He told the second daughter what he wanted to do directly. The second daughter looked hesitant when she heard this, but finally nodded in agreement. It's the two of you. Lu Gui casually hit the two origins and entered the bodies of Nilu and Yinglong. A source of thunder, a source of corpses. The two women were shaken violently, and the small benefits given by the six-eared saint were better than their 100,000 years of penance. The second daughter is happy and convinced of Lu Gui. Kneel down and kneel 3 times and knock 9 times. When the second daughter woke up, she found that Lu Gui had disappeared, and instead of it, it was the nasty face of Emperor Haoshan who brought the 9 heavens Suanu over. You two, help the human race promise the battle of luck, this is a blessing for the two of you. After this battle, wait for freedom. If you don't let it, you will bear the consequences. Haoshan God shocked the two women, and the two daughters bowed their heads, not letting Haoshan see the disdain in their eyes. We promised. Not long after, the second daughter was taken to the world by the 9 heavens Suanu. Lu Gui sat in the sky and smiled. 100 years later, Xian Yuan raised his army and began to unify the human race. Although the human race respects the human emperor, not everyone listens to Xuan Yuan's orders. But where Xuan Yuan's soldiers and horses passed, there were not too many sword soldiers, and the leader of the human tribe looked at the wind and surrendered. For a while, the luck of the human emperor accumulated deeper and deeper in Xian Yuan. Until they meet a tribe. Finally experienced the first sword robbery. After a long attack, Xian Yuan stood on the battlefield and shouted to persuade him to surrender. It's just that there is a saying among the tribes. I'll only ask the current emperor of the people one question, if the emperor of the people answers, I'll go out and surrender myself. When Xian Yuan heard this, he said, Chief, please speak. The leader said, back then, Dao ancestor Fuxi handed over humanity to you, and said that the human race does not worship the sky. Emperor Xian Yuan, did you do it? This sentence made Xian Yuan Yellow Emperor's expression change greatly. This also made Haoshan, Luo Hu, and others, who had been watching this war, look slightly different. Senior brother, why didn't you answer? Sheneng's clan came out of the tribe. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 207. Whether it's Xian Yuan, Hong Jun hiding behind Xian Yuan, and Haoshan. They were all stunned by the sudden appearance of Sheneng. Sheneng's clan is just an insignificant little person in the Honghuang continent, and his status as the emperor in the previous world may be able to let others take a closer look. But in this world, other saints can't think of him at all. However, as soon as Xian Yuan reminded him, everyone immediately responded. Sheneng, one of Fuxi's 2 major disciples. When Fuxi invaded the sky, he chose Xian Yuan to accompany him, and after he returned, Xian Yuan became the emperor of the human race. In order to balance the two, Fu 11 simply asked Sheneng to go to Yingzhou Island to seek refuge in the 6-eared sage. It can be said that Sheneng has been separated from the power of the human race since then. Become an immortal. Now that Sheneng is here, there can only be one possibility. That's the 6-ear shot. Hong Jun, Luo Hu, and Haoshan all became alert. That mysterious 6-eared saint is a last resort, and the flood is very famous. Just looking at Sheneng standing here, Xuan Yuan's face was as pale as earth, and he understood the prestige of the 6 ears. 6 ears, but Fuxi's master. One of the ancestors of the flood wilderness. After Sheneng stood up, he asked. Senior brother, you haven't answered my question yet. Xian Yuan was asked by Sheneng, and his face turned blue and white. It's not that he doesn't remember Fuxi's ancestral teachings. However, since marrying Suanu, she has been imperceptibly influenced by her, and many things have gradually changed under the erosion of time. It's not that he wants to betray humanity, but he feels that accepting the way of heaven. Isn't it that bad? Xian Yuan said, Senior brother, the 3 ways of heaven, earth, and man are originally a Honghuang family. What is the difference between each other? And the taking sage has a saying, the heavens are eternal, and the people are changeable. If heaven and man are one, it will be complete. I follow the way of heaven, it is not the same as betraying humanity. Heaven and man are the same, and the law is natural. When Sheneng heard this, he laughed angrily. Xian Yuan looked at the Sheneng clan, who had always been as warm and calm as the earth, and was furious. Sheneng roared. You Xian Yuan want to unite heaven and man and go with you, don't pull me up. No wonder the ancestor drove me out of Yingzhou Island, I still can't figure it out. I thought you could inherit the torch of my humane ancestors and pass on humanity. I didn't expect it to have degenerated like this. Sheneng said that Xuan Yuan's face was blue and white, and Xuan Yuan's face also turned red. He thinks he has not betrayed humanity. Sheneng said too much. After Sheneng scolded, he took a deep breath. Humanity can't be handed over to people like you, Xian Yuan. I gave up the position of human emperor that day, and I won't let you unify the human race today. He laid out the carriage and horses, which made Xian Yuan angry. The Terrans were unified at the hands of Fuxi, but did not really form a dynasty, but a loose state of tribal confederation. Now Xian Yuan is preparing to complete the unfinished business of Fuxi and unify the human race. Unexpectedly, the last one to get in the way turned out to be his senior brother. Master named me the emperor, what does it matter to you Sheneng? I, Xian Yuan Yellow Emperor, am the luck of the human race. Master didn't say anything, you Sheneng are not qualified to point fingers. Sheneng sneered. Xian Yuan Yellow Emperor. Okay, if you don't want to be the emperor, then I, Sheneng, will pull you down from the position of human emperor. You are the Yellow Emperor, the old man is the Yan Emperor, let the ancestors burn the fire and burn the piece of Emperor Heaven on your head. Sheneng swore an oath, and the situation changed in an instant. Purple golden dragons hovered above the void. Haoshan, Rihua, and Hung Jun's expressions changed greatly. Xian Yuan turned pale with anger. This luck purple gold divine dragon is clearly the luck of the human race. This luck is equivalent to a humane recognition of Sheneng's words. What did I do wrong? A trace of pervasiveness flashed in Xuan Yuan's eyes, and then he looked at the nine heavens Suanu, and a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. Senior brother Sheneng, since this is the case, you and I have done one. The unification of the human race is the trend of the times. You can't stop me, when I become a humane saint and meet Master in person, you will know that I will not be wrong. Fu 11 often, the Xian Yuan army behind him shouted. The human race is unified, my Emperor Xian Yuan. The fortune of the Xian Yuan clan's army condensed into a golden dragon of luck, roaring fiercely. Emperor Yan, Emperor Huangdi, and the two emperors were angry, and war was about to break out. Those onlookers had solemn faces. On the side of Yandi Sheneng, it is obvious that the strength is not good. But everyone didn't dare to take it lightly, after all, Lu'er was a well-known unpredictable person in the wilderness. Since he dared to arrange for Sheneng to fight the Yellow Emperor, there must be a backhand. At this time, Sheneng also gathered his team and began to assemble. The Xian Yuan army's Xian Yuan car took the lead and charged directly over. This is the battle array of Heavenly Court, right? Lu Gui disappeared in the sky, watching the charge of Xuan Yuan's army, and the corner of his mouth smiled sarcastically. This day Emperor Haoshan is really willing to pay for his blood. It's no wonder that in the original war, Xia couldn't defeat the relatively weak Terrans. Behind the human race, I don't know how many things are blessed. Just looking at the momentum of this charge, Lu Gui also understood why Xian Yuan would choose to cooperate with Heavenly Court. The Terrans, although humane recovery, are still too weak in accumulation. The Xian Yuan car is Xuan Yuan's unique magic weapon and the magic weapon of war. It is also one of Xuan Yuan's meritorious treasures. Xian Yuan car, in addition to Xuan Yuan's condensation of the Xian Yuan sword, is the treasure that binds him to the luck of the human race. The Xianyuan car in Xuanyuan's hand was divided, and the army sat on the Xianyuan car to cooperate with the battle formation of the human race. The tribe of the Yan Emperor, one blow, was directly overwhelmed by Xianyuan. Unstoppable. That's it? This. The weakness of the Yandi tribe was beyond everyone's expectations. They thought that Lu Gui would prepare something for the Yandi tribe. But it doesn't seem to be. Xianyuan, Hongjun, Luohu, and others all breathed a sigh of relief. And Haoshan, the nine heavens Suanu is even more so. Xianyuan saw that Emperor Yan was at a loss, and laughed. "Senior brother, is this your humanitarian help?" He swept away the loss of Emperor Yan's appearance of the golden dragon just now, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. The unification of the human race is the destiny of heaven. Even if it's a senior brother, he Xianyuan should do it. The army of the great tribe of Emperor Yan was defeated. Sheneng's eyes froze, and he directly offered his merit treasure, Sheneng Ding. Sheneng Ding is erected on the earth, which can block the charge of Xianyuan Che. However, this is just his last breath after all. He used Sheneng Ding, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. This means that Sheneng really has no means for Lu Gui to stay. Sheneng Ding, after all, just fought for a momentary respite for Sheneng, and nothing changed in the result. The Yandi tribe was defeated and retreated, the clansmen suffered heavy casualties, and blood flowed like a river. "Your Majesty, retreat." Those Terran subordinates of the Sheneng tribe began to roar angrily. Sheneng was also covered in injuries at this time. Among the human race, the Yellow Emperor sat down, and there was actually a quasi-Saint Peak general. This person cooperated with Xianyuan Che, and the luck of the human race almost put him in a desperate situation. Seeing this situation in front of me, Xianyuan smiled, and a sword appeared in his hand. This sword is a superb acquired merit treasure, Xianyuan sword and human emperor sword. "Senior brother Sheneng, if you surrender at this time, how about my senior brother and brother working together as a human race and laying a foundation?" Sheneng sneered and snorted. "Xianyuan, the dispute between you and me is not a struggle for power, but a dispute for the Tao. If you return to humanity, I, Sheneng, will kneel down immediately now, and give you 3 kneels and 9 knocks to admit your mistakes. If you are obsessed, I would rather die than surrender." When Xianyuan heard this, his pupils shrank. At this time, the Sheneng tribe was almost completely wiped out. Sheneng was bathed in blood and looked at Xianyuan in the air. Xianyuan saw that Sheneng was obsessed, and his face became gloomy. He took out his natal merit Lingbao Xianyuan sword and pointed it directly at the Sheneng clan. The body of the Xianyuan sword is engraved with the sun, moon, and stars on one side, and the mountains, rivers, and plants on the other. On the hilt of the sword, the art of farming and animal husbandry is written, and the policy of unification of the 4 seas is written on the other. It contains infinite power, and it is a divine sword for slaying demons and eliminating demons. Xianyuan is the witness to the emperor's position, casting this merit spiritual treasure, if he can use it to preach. Although the Xianyuan sword will not be promoted to the innate treasure, it will definitely be a very powerful artifact. The Xianyuan army won a big victory, and the golden dragon of luck behind him roared, directly integrating into the Xianyuan sword. Senior brother took Xuanyuan's sword, but he can't be guaranteed to die. Although Xianyuan said this, he actually had the intention of killing Sheneng in his heart. Xianyuan sword, a collection of humanitarian merit and Xianyuan army's luck. It seems that Xianyuan shot alone, but in fact, this sword is equivalent to a large array bursting out with all its might. Which of Sheneng's cultivation can resist this? Xianyuan took out his sword, and the god who was entangled in Sheneng hurried to the earth. This sword is no longer something that can be fought against under the saints. The big picture is decided. Haoshan, Rehua, and Hongjun all breathed a sigh of relief. The pressure of these 6 ears has made them dare not take it lightly. Around Hongzhen's array, he landed in the air. At this time, Lu Gui smiled, and he had no intention of making a move. This war was his test for Xian Yuan and Sheneng. Humanitarian. It's not just a mouth. Sheneng faced Swan Yuan's nirvana, he smiled, he took a step, and the golden dragon of luck behind him also gathered his body. His merit spiritual treasure, Sheneng Ding flew out and blocked the Xian Yuan sword. Sheneng suddenly felt something in his heart at this time, and looked at the purple gold divine dragon in the distance. Xian Yuan slashed Sheneng Ding with the sword, and Sheneng's face turned pale. Directly vomited a mouthful of blood. However, a look of determination flashed in his eyes, and he suddenly grabbed the purple gold divine dragon of Qi Luck and condensed it into a sword. When Sheneng's holy sword was in his hand, Swan Yuan's expression changed greatly. This sword is the sword that Fu 11 disappeared in heaven back then, the human emperor sword. Sheneng looked coldly and swung out a sword. The sword domains made by the Xian Yuan sword collapsed one after another in front of the human emperor sword. No. Xian Yuan never thought that he would face a blow from the human emperor one day. This sword Fu 11 once used, this is Fu 11's preaching sword, killing Emperor Jun, witnessing. Hongzhen, Luohu, Haoshan, Tai, and others were dumbfounded. They worked hard to warn Lu Gui to make a move, but they didn't wait. Waiting for Sheneng to preach a sword. In the face of this highest sword technique of the human race, Swan Yuan's human emperor luck was directly wiped out. He was annihilated in Sheneng's sword light, and he died silently. At this time, everything is silent. When the sword light shattered, everything was silent. Nulu, Yinglong, Suanu and others were shocked to find that Regulus fell from the sky. Senior brother, I won't kill you. But you have been defeated, and now I am Emperor Yan, the throne of the Emperor of the throne. Sheneng slashed Xian Yuan with a sword, and the luck on his body gathered into 9 divine dragons, 9 dragons and 4 hidden ones, showing 9 or 5 life forms. Sheneng's family, stepping on Xian Yuan, ascended the throne of the emperor. At this time, Haoshan of the heavenly court was in disbelief and almost couldn't believe it. He calculated Xian Yuan and put his bet on Xian Yuan, in exchange for such an ending? I'm not convinced. Suanu! Haoshan shouted angrily, whispering to the Suanu, who sensed her father's movement, gritted her teeth, and said to the general who had entangled Sheneng. Hooking, kill him for me. The human emperor sword is gone, he is just the end of the crossbow. Nulu, Yinglong, let's shoot together. It is impossible for the 9 heavens Suanu to let Xian Yuan lose the throne. Their bet on Xian Yuan cannot afford to lose. Humanity can't do it? Then the 9 heavens Suanu is ready to use the power of the heavenly Dao. Then Ho Qing, Nu Lu, Yinglong stood up, and the Qi machine pointed directly at the Sheneng clan. Although the Sheneng clan defeated Xian Yuan, it was already crumbling. At this time, Lu Gui smiled mysteriously. The Terran general named Hooking was smashed in the head by a punch from the female leader. Everyone, all stupid. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 208. What are you doing, girl? The Terran general called Hooking was directly smashed by the female leader. The female Lu made up a punch and smashed Ho Qing into pieces. His soul, the female slug didn't want to take it. The 9 heavens Suanu, Haoshan, and those saints behind the scenes were angry. The female Lu killed Hooking, and the Xian Yuan army was in chaos. The human race of the Xian Yuan army, after Sheneng cut out the human emperor sword, has lost the morale of the army. The human emperor sword is the totem of the human race. Back then, Daozo Fuxi made a sword in the heavenly court, gambled on the luck of the human race, and killed the emperor of heaven. This is the time for the development of the human race for 10,000 years. Xian Yuan is the human emperor canonized by Fu 11 himself, his successor. But Xian Yuan never cut out the human emperor's sword. On the contrary, since Xian Yuan sacrificed to the sky, the luck of the human race has become more and more low. Although these ordinary soldiers do not feel it. But when Sheneng made a sword, the soldiers wondered, are we wrong? It can be said that except for Xuan Yuan's core team, other tribal leaders and ordinary people have begun to retreat. Now the strongest hooking general in the human race is dead, and the heavenly maiden of the heavenly court is in battle to rebel. This gave everyone a deep understanding of Sheneng's destiny. Nulu, you are looking for death. When the nine heaven Suanu saw the movements of the heavenly maiden, her eyes were about to split. A cold light flashed in her eyes, and she sacrificed an artifact. Haoshan mirror. The power of the illusion envelopes the female squire. This Haoshan mirror was originally one of the two talisman magic weapons in the hands of Emperor Haoshan. In order to let his daughter help Xian Yuan ascend to the position of a saint, he had already let it go. At this time, Yinglong smiled lightly and waved a thunderbolt. Directly shatter the attack of the nine heaven Suanu. Yinglong, are you also the opposite? The nine heaven Suanu was so angry that her face turned green. Yinglong and Nulu looked at each other and smiled. Nine heaven Suanu, you were ordered by your father, the Emperor of Heaven, to deliberately seduce the human Emperor Xian Yuan in the lower realm. The Battle of the Luck of the Terrans. Following the Terrans, your father interfered in humanity and had bad intentions. The two of us didn't want to participate in the war, let alone help you, against the general trend of humanity. Yinglong's words caused an uproar in the Terran army. The identity of the nine heaven Suanu, except for Xian Yuan who later knew, was still a secret to most people. Yinglong is a crony brought over by the nine heaven Suanu, and she personally broke the news. Most of the Terran armies and chieftains were blown up. For a time, the army of the human race retreated, and some even worse, they were already standing behind Yandi Sheneng. The killing intent in the eyes of the nine heaven Suanu was already so strong that it couldn't do it. They have been calculating for many years, but what did she get by sacrificing her body in exchange for such an ending? Don't forget, you have a ban, in my father's hands. Knows that he is not the opponent of Yinglong and Nulu. The nine heaven Suanu can only threaten loudly. Yinglong and Nulu looked at each other and smiled. Nine heaven Suanu, do you think we will be unprepared? The heavenly god Haoshan sensed that something was wrong, and hurriedly pinched the imprint that controlled Yinglong and Nulu. However, he found that Yinglong and Nulu had long since escaped from their control. His face darkened with anger and he looked to the ground. I saw that the female Lu had already stood up at this time. We are entrusted by heaven and earth to plot humanity in order to profit with the help of the luck of the human race. Now, in order to atone for her sins, Nulu is willing to join the command of His Majesty the new human Emperor Sheneng, help the human emperor to help the human race, and complete the battle of luck. When her words fell, the luck of the human race was vaguely entangled in the female body. Yinglong chuckled and said, I should be a dragon, but after the real dragon, I lived in seclusion in the South China Sea, and the previous Emperor of Heaven captured me and put me in the prison. This Emperor of Heaven has done lowly things, although I am a female. Yes, Yinglong is a woman, although I have no ambitions. I also admire Emperor Yan's humane words, and I am willing to join Emperor Yan and become a general. After the second daughter finished speaking, countless merits were brought down in humanity. At this time, those Terran tribal leaders finally came to their senses. They knelt down in unison and bowed to Sheneng. We are willing to follow the human emperor. Wait, meet the human emperor Sheneng. The Terran torch, inheritance, and sustainability. Long live the Yan emperor. As soon as one person knelt down, the other's mental defenses immediately collapsed. People all over the mountains knelt on the ground and knocked on the Emperor Sheneng. For a time, the golden dragon of the human race's luck spread for millions of miles and grew to the extreme. The nine heavens Suanu almost couldn't take a breath and fainted. At this time, Xianyuan Yellow Emperor finally woke up and found that he was not dead. Master, am I wrong? Today's Xianyuan, the general trend has gone. Just looked at the nine heavens Suanu and was silent. Senior brother is benevolent, didn't you kill me? Suanu, let's admit defeat. I was wrong, so humanity gave up on me. Senior brother's destiny. Xianyuan Yellow Emperor is still the leader of the human race after all, and his will is gradually clear. He pulled the Suanu beside him, but found that the nine heavens Suanu looked at him with cold eyes. Xianyuan was cold, as if he knew his wife for the first time. Suanu's mind was spinning desperately, wanting to break the current situation. At this time, Emperor Haoshan passed down an order. Nulu, Yinglong is a sinner in the heavenly court. Heavenly punishment. Haoshan God, who pressed everything, couldn't let go of his blockage after all, and finally ended up in person. At this time, the Suanu was overjoyed. With the dragon girl as a breakthrough. Heavenly court can also continue to interfere with the luck of the human race. Now the second daughter has taken refuge in Sheneng. You Sheneng Bao don't protect the second daughter, don't protect it, it's chilling, after all, because Nulu and Yinglong rebelled. The agriculture will gather the army of the human race so quickly, and peacefully take over the power. But if Sheneng wants to be hard guaranteed? That day, the emperor couldn't ask for it. As soon as Haoshan's words came out, Luo Hu, Tai and Hung Jun, who were hiding in the shadows, all looked up at the emperor. This Haoshan god has always been inconspicuous. Especially in the early days, he was bullied by Yuan Shi and didn't say a word. Now that I look at it, I really am still a hero. I have to say that Haoshan's reason, although far-fetched, is better than fast and accurate. The Sheneng clan was suddenly forced to the point where they had to make a choice. Emperor Haoshan is nested again, these years have been protected by Lao Tzu, Hung Jun rewarded. Also gathered a little strength. With her order, the few heavenly soldiers and generals in the heavenly court were faintly visible. Hand over Yinglong, Nulu, and we'll bring it back to heaven. We won't interfere in the affairs of the human race. The Emperor of Heaven issued an edict that fell into the ears of everyone of the human race. Everyone looked at each other and looked at Sheneng. This Emperor of Heaven used an upright plan. If Sheneng gave up the support of the corresponding dragon maidens, it would chill the hearts of those leaders who had just taken refuge in the human race. But if Sheneng let the soldiers of the human race fight hard in order to protect the two goddesses, it will also chill the hearts of others. The human heart is so strange. No matter what Sheneng does, someone will find out Sheneng's faults. After all, the second daughter is not a human race, not my race, and her heart must be different. Lu Gui was in the air, and when he saw all this, he smiled. Heavenly Emperor Haoshan is really an old yin goods. Can control the existence of heaven and earth in the post-God era, which one is easy to mess with. He is not ready to meddle, since Sheneng is going to sit on the throne of the emperor. This is also a test for him. Sheneng did not hesitate to make his choice. He held up his Sheneng Ding and pointed to the sky. Roll. In a word, domineering is fully displayed. The three realms were in an uproar. Emperor Hao's face turned green in the weather, and he shouted angrily. The emperor has no way, and he does not respect heaven. Okay, I'm going to see how you make me. Today. Haoshan knew that his strength was weak, and he directly exhausted the heavenly court's heavenly soldiers. At this time, 100,000 heavenly soldiers poured down and slaughtered towards the Terran army. Suanu, the leaders of the various tribes of the human race, as well as the Xianyuan Yellow Emperor, all had complicated expressions. It's just that at this time, Sheneng smiled. A ruler suddenly appeared in his hand. Life and death merit spiritual treasure, his fate is actually this. Lu Gui smiled when he saw it in the air, and the moment Sheneng took out this ruler, he knew that this ruler came from the source of life and death. Every source is born, and there are merit spiritual treasures that inherit the merits of creation. Just like Nuwa's Hongmeng holy sword, Lao Tzu's heaven and earth Xian Huang Ling Long pagoda and diamond bracelet, Hongmeng measuring heaven ruler and so on. There is a time when the boundary of time and space opens the sky, and there is naturally a time when the source of life and death opens the sky. Lu Gui now looks down on the innate spirit treasure. But it doesn't mean that this magic weapon is weak. Faced with the emperor's conspiracy, Sheneng made his own choice. He did not let his men be sent to death, nor did he hand over Nulu and Yinglong. Emperor Yan Sheneng chose to step into the air and face the heavenly soldiers alone. The way of life and death evolved behind Emperor Yan. When Hung Jun and the others saw this avenue of life and death, they were shocked. The Dao of life and destruction, is it him, 6 ears? I see. Hung Jun instantly understood what was happening on Yingzhou Island, like falling into an ice cellar. At this time, Sheneng stepped on the void, and the ruler in his hand evolved into thousands of lives and deaths. The Dao of life and destruction is different from destruction, there is life and there is destruction, and it will not be rejected by the Dao of the desolate heaven. In addition to Sheneng's strong method of life and death, he also has a monstrous fighting spirit. The way of my ancestors, the battle sky, the battlefield, the battle myself. My master's way, cut the sky. Life and death, the law of war, burned on Sheneng's body. At the same time, the golden dragon of the human race's luck surrounded Sheneng. The luck of the human race gathers on the ruler of merit of life and death. Sheneng stepped on the road of Fuxi back then, 1 foot, cutting the sky. Dazzling light, shining in the air. The monstrous blood chi surged straight to heaven. Fight to defeat the duel, 100 battles of the Dao body, the core of the demon god of war, cutting the sky. 1 foot wiped out 100,000 heavenly soldiers. For a time, the heavens and the earth were silent. Sheneng burned the luck of the human race and stood above the void. The leaders of the human race were enthusiastic when they saw it. This is the emperor of the clan. This is the emperor of people worthy of my generation. The Terran flame lasts. Long live the Yan emperor. After a brief silence, the Terrans erupted in terrifying cheers. Xianyuan and Suanu, hearing this cheer, turned pale. I've never heard this kind of cheer, it seems that I'm really wrong, this is the spirit of the human race. Suanu, let's go. Xianyuan Yellow Emperor pulled the 9 heavens Suanu and left, this is no longer a stage for him, why bother to humiliate himself? The Yellow Emperor was convinced, but not everyone was like this. The Eastern Emperor saw everything at a glance, and was furious. With a cold look in his eyes, a thin silk flame flew out and headed towards Emperor Yan. Suddenly, there was a snap. Dong Huang Tai flew out directly and smashed to the ground. Calculate behind your back, forget it. Are you really dead when I'm 6 ears? The voice of Lu Gui appeared between heaven and earth. The Eastern Emperor Tai, the demon ancestor Rahu, and those who calculate the human race. Hearing Lu Gui's voice, he was instantly silent. 6 ears, after all, still came. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, Detective with 6 ears. Chapter 209. 6-eared. Tai was beaten like a dog eating by Lu Gui and fell directly to the ground. At this time, those who calculated the human race only thought about one thing. The 6-eared saint, it's not that he didn't appear, but he has always been. It's just that they didn't cross the line, and they didn't make a move. The figure of the 6-eared macaque Lu Gui appeared between heaven and earth. Demon ancestor Rahu and Eastern Emperor Tai were silent. What, Tai, do you think it's been a long time since I picked your bird feathers? forgot the pain of the year. Lu Gui looked at Dong Huang Tai indifferently, and a trace of anger flashed in Tai's eyes. He burned in anger, directly sacrificed the chaos bell, and slammed into Lu Gui. Lu Gui didn't even think about it. A sword chi of life and annihilation shattered the defense of the chaos bell. Another sword chi of time and space suppressed the sun, moon, and stars. Lu Gishan is extremely powerful, and even if Dong Huang Tai is enchanted, he instantly understands the gap between himself and Lu'er. He couldn't make a move, and fled in a hurry. Lu Gui sneered, and turned Hongmeng into a sword. Cutting the sky. The rich law of war, with the magic power of cutting the sky, slashed on the body of the Eastern Emperor Tai. Dong Huang Tai screamed, looked at his body in shock, and disappeared. No matter how much he struggled, it would be to no avail. In the unwillingness of the heart, the saint has fallen. The saint falls, the heaven and the earth are sad. As soon as the Eastern Emperor died, the flood and blood rained all over the sky. The creatures in the flood wilderness sensed the fall of the Eastern Emperor, and couldn't help but have a trace of sadness. Kunlun Mountain Yugzu Palace, Shaoyang Mountain, western boundary. No matter who the saint is, seeing the fate of the one. Wow, cool in my heart. The fall of the saint, the flood did not happen without it. But the saint fell so easily. But it was beyond everyone's expectations. From the time Lu Gui appeared to the time he killed Tai, it took less than 5 breaths. Tai is a flood saint 6 heavens. Killing a saint is like killing a dog. This is the feeling of all the other saints. Among these saints, the most frightened was Moserehua. He is different from Tai, he is a mixed sage. To be dead is to be really dead, and it is impossible to be reborn in the heavenly Dao. Demon ancestor Rehu stood in place, in a cold sweat, but he didn't even dare to escape. The calculation of 10,000 years, in front of Lu'er, became a joke. The game is a game that follows the rules of the game. Did you say so? 6-eared laughter Yan Yan, saying words that silenced everyone. Luo who thought that Lu'er was talking about him, and almost fell to his knees. And Haoshan of Heavenly Court was already so frightened that his legs were weak and he didn't dare to say anything. Only Zixiao Palace Hongjun snorted coldly, he knew that Lu Gui was talking about him. Now in the entire flood wilderness, there is no one else who can really put Lu Gui in his eyes except Hongjun. Hongjun suddenly rose with a sad feeling. No one of his men could help him. If the battle between heaven and earth really broke out, he would face the 3 great Dao ancestors alone. There is no chance of winning, except, of course, desperate efforts. Lu Gui's words have exposed his bottom line and are also warning Hongjun. As a chess player of heaven and earth, calculate all beings. He can't interfere with this, but if he dares to go down in person. That Eastern Emperor Tai is an example for everyone. Hongjun's silence was equivalent to answering, and Lu Gui turned around and left, flying towards the human race. Demon ancestor Rehu waited for Lu Gui to leave, sweating coldly, and knelt directly on the ground. He was scared to death just now. However, Lu Gui didn't kill him, and he laughed wildly again. Like a madman. I will surpass you one day. Demon ancestor Rehu said that he didn't dare to stay. Straight towards the Western world. At this time, in the Pangu Palace, 2 pairs of eyes fell on Rehu, and then silently withdrew them. At this time, the human race, Sheneng slashed the sky with a sword. Condense the luck of the emperor to the extreme. The purple gold divine dragon hovered above the void, swallowing out its vitality. Sheneng's cultivation has greatly increased. After he gathered his leaders and swallowed Xuanyuan's strength, Sheneng's luck swelled to the extreme. Because of the battle record, this is not difficult to combine. In the chase for deer, Sheneng was ready to ascend the throne and officially become emperor. At night, Lu Gui appeared in Sheneng's account. Shannon was discussing with the female Lu and the two daughters of Yinglong, and saw Lu Gui appearing. The three of them were shocked and bowed directly. "Meet the ancestor. Meet the six-eared saint." Lu Gui smiled and looked at Shannon. "You're doing a great job." Shannon's family was praised by Lu Gui and laughed like a child. Nulu and Yinglong glanced at each other, as if in the eyes of the emperor, they were praised by Lu Gui, and they were even happier than him being the emperor. They don't know, if they don't have a choice. Shannon would rather serve by Lu Gui's side, more than being a human emperor. Only Lu Gui's core henchmen know how deep the opportunity behind the saint is. Lu Guideo. Humanity, it should be like you, humane saint, there should also be a place for you. But let me ask you, why did you let Xian Yuan go? The people on the field suddenly heard Lu Gui's inquiry, and the needle fell in an instant. Shannon's cold sweat broke out from his forehead, he lowered his head, and said, "Senior ancestor, senior brother has taken the evil path, but he is not completely hopeless. After all, he is the emperor of a generation, leading the human race to prosperity. Senior brother's way is wrong, but he can't talk about betraying the human race, and if he hadn't taken the initiative to retreat, I wouldn't have handed over the power so smoothly. After all, his heart is for the Terrans." The ghost emperor of the Shannon clan kowtowed, and Lu Gui was non-committal. However, Xian Yuan did not disappoint Lu Gui, and Lu Gui was non-committal about this matter. "He's already paid for his actions, and that's it?" Lu Gui seemed to smile and looked at the female leader. Full. The pretty face of the female girl turned red instantly. "Thanks to the six-eared sage for his guidance, I can get Hooking's soul." Is the female Lu sincerely grateful to the six ears? This six-eared saint is rumored to know the affairs of the world, which is really true. Who would have thought that the wisp of differentiation of the corpse demon god was actually a human race? Lu Gui smiled secretly in his heart. Except for him, no one else would have thought that one of the souls of the corpse demon god would be on Ho Cheng. 3,000 demon gods, after being killed by the demon ancestor. There will be the 3,000 avenues. But the split soul will always evolve into a desolate innate soul. Just as the chaos demon ape turned into the four monkeys of the chaos world, the soul of the corpse demon also turned into the four great zombie ancestors. Droughtfish, Hooking, generals, Windhooks. Among them, Ho Ching's origin is very strange. He was a man in front of him, and after he died in battle, he was a ghost, and he became a zombie ancestor. After the death of this queen, he was resentful Xian Yuan. Resentment against all races. Because he died on the battlefield, but no one could help him collect the body, his resentment activated the bloodline of the dragon, and eventually became the ancestor of the zombie. And he is also one of the most ferocious beings among the zombie ancestors. Who would have thought that in the soul of a human race, there was actually the power of the fierce? Even if it is Daezu Hongjun, he may not know. The female leader has won the soul of Ho Ching, and has evolved in the direction of the real, and her strength has skyrocketed. If she can still devour the generals and win the hook, it will definitely be stronger. The four zombie ancestors, Wingo is also Xuan Yuan's subordinate in the legend. But Lu Gui didn't know the existence of this one, thinking that because of the change in the course of history, this one did not join the Terrans. But this is so called, anyway, he has already told the female that the female will worry about it. It's the general, the strongest zombie ancestor, and he doesn't know when he will appear? Anyway, for an existence of the level of the chaos demon god, Lu Gui would not be able to look down on it for a long time. Let the female play by herself. Lu Gui looked at Yinglong. When you finish the Battle of Luck, Yingzhou Island, and the Netherworld Dragon Clan, you can choose at will. When Yinglong heard this, he was very happy. From the time of Tai, after she was captured to heaven. It's been a long time since I lost contact with the dragons. The dragons retreated to the Netherworld, bidding farewell to the wilderness once and for all, but we're free. It's also excellent if she wants to. And the location of Yingzhou Island, the 3 realms and 6 paths, who doesn't want to go in? If you can get Lu Gui's personal promise, it is worth the desperate efforts of any immortal in the wilderness. Pacify the second daughter. Lu Gui turned his attention to Sheneng. The second girl was interested and turned to leave. Demon ancestor Rahuo, calculating the human race. Dao ancestor Hongjun is also calculating humanity. The battle of our human race's luck is a sign that the flood famine has completely shifted from the era of innate beings to the era of acquired souls. After that, all the immortals will go into hiding. In this battle, when it was supposed to be fought, the Terrans went up, but humanity was defeated. Why did they push Xianyuan up? Xianyuan has lost his insistence on humanity. What is the unity of heaven and man? That's a joke. My human race, only talk about people to win the sky. If you start a battle of luck, remember your duty. Lu Gui taught earnestly, and Sheneng listened quietly. Give me the ruler in your hand. Lu Gui said casually. Sheneng hurriedly handed over the ruler he had obtained in the source of life and death to Lu Gui. Lu Gui thought for a moment, and slapped a trace of the great Dao merit he left behind on the ruler. This ruler, to get this wisp of great merit, has a vague tendency to promote the innate treasure. Sheneng was almost stunned. Shizu is so good to him. If you can preach the merits of the saint and the human emperor, you can make this Sheneng ruler promote to the innate treasure. My human race, it should also have a magic weapon to suppress luck. Sheneng didn't understand the deep meaning of Lu Gui. Lu Gui didn't explain either. If he unites the 3 doppelgangers, he will become the 3 supremes. When the time comes, there will be 3 realms of heaven, earth, and man, and each will vacate a vacant seat. The matter of the position of the saint will not be mentioned for the time being. Kongtong Dao people are the luck of the human race. In case it disappears, the Terrans will have no magic weapon to suppress their luck. When the time comes, there will be a flaw in humanity in the 3 realms of heaven, earth, and man. He took precautions and patched up this flaw first. If after the integration of the 3 realms, the Kongtong Dao people really lose the identity of the luck of the human race, and the Sheneng ruler is the treasure of the luck of the human race, the monkey will not allow himself to preach the 3 realms supremely. The peaches of the human race were plucked by outsiders. Sheneng was overjoyed when he heard Lu Gui's words. Hurry up and kneel and bow to Lu Gui. But when he got up, he found that Lu Gui was no longer there. This mysterious 6-eared patriarch has gone elsewhere. Sheneng collected the best innate merit that was named Sheneng ruler by the patriarch. Then he called his own generals. Start laying things out about the Terrans. He was not in a hurry to expand the right of existence of the human race, but is ready to spend 1,000 years to transform the minds of the human race. Destroy the temples of the heavenly court. The human race is destined to go up, and humanity is indeed variable. Received the teachings of the patriarch. Sheneng didn't dare to be careless at all. And at this time, Lu Gui wandered in the wilderness, thinking about a question. After I merge the 3 supremes, who will the vacant humane saints belong to? Honghuang, fellow Taoist, please stop breaking the news. Author, detective with 6 ears. Chapter 391. This time, Lu Gui has no way out. When he slashed out of Hongmeng for the 3rd time, the Chaos Demon gods completely understood that their fate had come to an end. The power of Hongmeng was originally to exist for the sake of opening the sky. Lu Gui is also the strongest great Dao saint in the heavens and 10,000 worlds. If it weren't for the particularity of Hongmeng chaos, he would have already opened the heavens and preached. Now, 3 times of life and death finally let him take the last step. Fate, cause and effect, the 5 elements, destruction and other chaotic strangeness, under the Hongmeng supernatural power, ashes. It's really chaotic, and suddenly there is a slight change, and it explodes in an instant. Lu Gui's body was also blown to pieces with chaos. But his consciousness still exists, using the power of Hongmeng to determine the creation. Endless information and power are pouring towards Lu Gui. Nearly burst his body. Lu Gui's face changed greatly, the most troublesome truncation of the heaven opener, the Hongmeng chaos also came more quickly than the other chaos. At this point he has no way out. To be dead is to be truly dead. Lu Guidao's heart returned to one, and he began to collect distracting thoughts and resolve the grievances of the great Dao wholeheartedly. But this is not too difficult for Lu Gui. There are cheating level supernatural powers, and the gods and demons are in the spectrum. The resentment of the 3,000 avenues has become his food instead. However, the sudden change made Lu Gui's soil Dao heart tremble. A picture appeared in front of him, which was Pangu, smashing the Hongmeng Daoist with one punch. This is the last picture left by Hongmeng Daoist to Lu Gui. He's dead. Completely disappeared into the heavens and all the worlds. At the same time, Lu Gui saw the current flood from the picture left by the Hongmeng Dao people. The sun and the moon fall, the stars are destroyed. Pangu stood up to the sky, under the attack of the saints of the other world. Has destroyed the Jotian Star Do Great Array. Even if this great array can resist the power of the 10,000 armies, Pangu and the otherworldly saints is beyond the range that the great array can withstand. The sun and the moon are destroyed. Hongmeng Daoist was forced to fight to save Nuwa, Zai, and others. But after Pangu devoured the sun and the moon, the strength is getting stronger and stronger. Before Hongmeng Daoist sent back this message, he had already started to detonate himself. When Lu Gui seriously appeared with a brilliant brilliance, he understood that his doppelganger was completely dead. He fought for his disciples for the last chance. But then, the flood is afraid that there will be more evil and less auspicious. Fellow Daoist, I see that the seat is going to walk in front of you. The message left by the Hongmeng Daoist made Lu Gui angry. At this time, the great Dao was angry, sensing that Lu Gui's Dao heart was lost, and fought back frantically. Lu Gui was in the magic realm for a while, and he couldn't extricate himself. The entire Hongmeng chaos, the process of opening the sky, directly stopped. Lu Gui's flesh and blood turned into pieces of blood mist and floated in the chaos. And at this time, the flood famine. Completely entering the state of annihilation, countless saints, mixed saints, fell from the sky. Flood beings, in the face of this kind of scene, can only take everyone and go towards the netherworld. Netherworld, originally the boundary of life and death. No man shall enter, no man shall enter. But at this time, the avenue collapsed, and everyone couldn't care about it. The 6 realms of reincarnation array of the netherworld is the last position of the flood wilderness. At this time, Nuwa turned her head and looked at the giant in the sky, her eyes flashing with sadness. Her belly bulged slightly. Hutuk pulled her a little. Sister, if necessary, you and I can only retire from the position of saints, take the flesh and blood of the Xianggong, and stay away from the flood. Nuwa nodded. Hongmeng Dai was fine before the self-explosion, which means that the day of the Xiang was quite smooth. But if he goes well, why not come back? Sister, let's go. Nuwa couldn't bear to see the devastated life. Eventually, he was reincarnated and entered the netherworld. Wait until the seed finishes swallowing the heavenly Dao, and then go to the tunnel to settle accounts with you. Pangu glanced at the people who went to the netherworld from the smoke of gunpowder. Hongmeng Daoist blew himself up in a big road and 9 turns, which made him quite injured. He originally thought that Hongmeng had become independent to the point where the body would not die when he died, and he must be similar to himself. Pangu originally wanted to let Hongmeng go. But I didn't expect this guy to be so resolute. A self-explosion that turns 9 turns, if it weren't for Pangu's cleverness, would have been killed a long time ago. The heavens and all the worlds, Those great Dao 9 turns and their subordinates were also killed by Hongmeng. These avenues of death turn 9 times, feeding back the desolate world. If the flood survives this catastrophe, it will definitely usher in a big outbreak. However, all this came to an abrupt end in his hands. He will reclaim the desolate world, and finally, eat all the good food. Then, go to Hongmeng chaos and preach Hongmeng. Pangu thought of this, and with a punch, he directly shattered half of the flood wilderness. He laughed and continued to devour everything in the desolation. At this time, the source of power. The Fate Taoist who had been paying attention to the chaos of Hongmeng stood up in horror and shouted in horror. Impossible! Hongmeng chaos, suddenly, at a speed he couldn't imagine, began to collapse. A giant who stands tall in the sky, appears in the depths of the void. That giant is in the form of a chaos demon ape. The collapsed Hongmeng chaos gradually became a part of his body. Guided by the Dao of destiny, the 3,000 avenues of the source of innate power boiled in an instant. The boiling of this kind of avenue has successfully evolved from the source of innate power, to the source of power, to the source of 3,000 sources, and then to the heavens and 10,000 worlds. All the cultivators don't know what's going on? Only the Dao of destiny witnessed all this with his own eyes and trembled. Hongmeng, Dao Hongmeng. That huge figure, the breath on his body, just a trace of it, has the urge to make the Daoist of fate kneel down. It's not about will, it's like the suppression of the superior to the inferior. The Daoist of fate trembled and forced himself not to kneel. At this time, the giant opened his eyes, and his Dao heart was instantly shattered. Poofed, saying that he didn't want to kneel down the Fate Taoist, so he knelt down directly. It turns out that this is Hongmeng. Now, all the heavens and all the worlds respect me. The giant opened his eyes and muttered to himself. After he woke up, the great Dao of the heavens and 10,000 worlds was restless, but it calmed down. Giants, naturally, are lugui. At the last moment of his enchantment, he finally relied on the fighting spirit of the demon god of war to successfully collect all the great Dao curses. Finally, he preached Hongmeng. Hongmeng realm, it is difficult for Lugui to describe his feelings. With a single thought, 3,000 avenues, between his own thoughts, call at will, he can cut off the connection between anyone and the avenue. It can also make the other party's avenue boil. In short, Lugui is now the master of the great Dao. As long as it is under Hongmeng, even the great Dao saint is under his control. I don't know what happened to Nuwa. Lugui stood up and returned to his normal size. He looked at the trembling Daoist of destiny, non-committal. My lord, spare. Before the words of the Daoist of destiny were finished, he was directly returned by Lu for a year, isolated from the 3,000 great avenues. The next moment, the bad luck in the avenue of destiny broke out, and the Daoist of fate found that he had actually gone mad. The demonic flames gradually burned, burning his body to ashes. Before he disappeared from consciousness, he never thought that he would die so aggrieved. 9 turns of one avenue, in front of Hongmeng's eyes, is not worth mentioning. It's time to settle accounts. Lugui's gaze turned to the direction of the flood world, tore open the space, and went directly to the flood wilderness. The desolate world. Eternal Dao people and others. I just experienced the self-explosion of the Hongmeng Daoist people, and I was made disgraced. They watched Pangu commit abuse in the desolate world. The entire flood of weather has been beaten to the ground by the evil corpse of this former heaven opener. The order of heaven has collapsed. The flood can be said to have completely entered the rhythm of annihilation. In such a world, the people of the eternal Dao and others have seen countless of them, and they are not surprised. The world will be destroyed, or vanished into the worlds, or will be reduced to the cities of the heavens. All in all, after today, the flood can no longer exist in the form of a world. But let others look sideways. The destruction of the flood famine, the increase in Pangu beyond their imagination, and even frightened. This guy is definitely stronger than Destiny Taoist now. I don't know if they, the great Dao saints, can still suppress him. The strength of Pangu is on the one hand. On the other hand, what makes them look at it is the resilience of all living beings in the wilderness. Even in the current position, everyone believed that the 6-year Dao Venerable would come, revert everything back to its original state. Pangu killed so many people, and no one doubted it. Nwa, Hutu. You too have the blood of that bastard. You too surrender, I can be their father. The Pangu evil corpse absorbed almost all of the original owner's inheritance, and finally reached the peak of the avenue. Under his madness, he madly stimulated Nwa and Hutu who were defending the saints of the desolation, in the face of such Pangu, showing a look of despair. At this time, a voice came from behind Pangu. Thank you, but I still want to do it myself. Dao Venerable. Xianggong. 6 ears. Lu Gui suddenly appeared behind Pangu, with a coercive smile. Nwa and Hutu and other Taoist couples, as well as Zhen Yuanzi, Aoluan and other disciples, saw the moment Lu Gui appeared. Surprises. Pangu, on the other hand, screamed in fright as if he had seen a dead man. He pointed to the 6 ears, incredulous. Impossible, you didn't fail to open the sky, and you're already dead. Lu Gui is serious. That's right, I died twice, and the third time I succeeded. Pangu was almost blown up by Lu Gui's words. He suspected that Lu Gui was playing tricks on him. But he soon discovered one thing. That is, Lu Gui is standing here, which represents a possibility that he is unwilling to imagine. You. That's right, I'm enlightened, are you surprised? Lu Gui smiled. Pangu was creepy. He didn't go to confirm Lu Gui's state, and turned around and wanted to leave. As a result, Lu Gui smiled. He seriously flashed a divine light, which had already torn through the void Pangu, and the avenue boiled in an instant. His law began to burn his body. In the flood wilderness, Pangu, who was invincible, fell directly to the ground, like a dog eating. Everyone was shocked. Whether it's a flood or a saint from another world. None of this was expected. The eternal Dao people and others saw that Pangu was deflated, and hurriedly came to the rescue. Lu Gui turned his head and glared. The eternal Dao people instantly felt the great terror between life and death. He cried out. No. Directly annihilated in the void.